bo wszyscy jesteśmy dumni, że żyjemy w Wielkopolsce, europejskim regionie aktywnych ludzi.
Thank you very much and welcome. I hope we are ready to start as we have a really packed and intensive 2 days of interaction, so starting timely will be important to us. I welcome you very warmly to the 6th Annual Political Dialogue in Konin 2025, and it's hosted by the beautiful region of Wielkopolska. I'm thrilled to have such a broad audience here with us in Konin, and I'm also thrilled to know that there are many more joining us online, as this is a truly international event. Now, I have been asked by a couple of people just before the session if I'm stressed to lead. I haven't been until then, but I think I am now. So I do feel the pressure of having such a prominent guest in the room. But I also feel at ease, because I feel having this meeting for the 6th time, it really is a meeting of friends and a meeting of community. I see many faces that I have seen in the previous editions, and I'm sure many of you will welcome seeing your old friends again. So I welcome you to this political dialogue, but I'm really welcome you to the meeting of community, a very important community that has grown significantly since the first edition 6 years ago. Now, the event has been organized by the European Commission, and it is represented today by the Executive Vice President for Clean, Just and Competitive Transition, Mrs. Teresa Ribera. Mrs. Ribera has kindly pre-recorded a message to all of us, and we will be sharing this shortly. The Commission is also represented by Mr. Matthew Baldwin, the Deputy Director General at DG ENER, and his wonderful team, who has invested so much effort in making the events happen every year. And today's edition is also organized by the government of the Wielkopolska region, represented by Marshal Mr. Marek Woźniak, and is also organized by the Regional Development Agency in Konin, represented by the Chairman of the Board, Mr. Maciej Sytek. Thank you so much to all the organizers for making this event possible. Now, I've mentioned that we are a community that has been growing gradually for the 6 years, and I think there is something quite special and wonderful about this event this time, because the community is growing even further. So apart from the main events that we are having here as part of the dialogue, there is a series of side events organized by wonderful partners committed to just transition, and I would like to welcome them very much. So I welcome the European Investment Bank, that is organizing bilateral information sessions on their target support. Some of you will be joining. I welcome Bankwatch CEE, that has been very vocal about the rights and importance of all the communities in just transition, and is enriching our program through cultural events and initiatives. I hope some of you at least attended the wonderful concert yesterday. We'll have a chance to appreciate an art exhibition tomorrow as well, organized by Bankwatch. And Bankwatch has also brought together and expanded this community by bringing together representatives of core regions in the Western Balkans. So I hope we have with us in the room guests from Serbia, Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Bosnia. If we have, dobrodošli. We are really thrilled to, again, going beyond the EU. Now, we are going even further with the support of the Bloomberg Philanthropies and Forum Energy, that is organizing a Just Call Transition Exchange that is again bringing even more international and global presence to our event. And it's involving guests from as far as Brazil, Indonesia, China, and the US. So as I said, many of the faces here I have seen before, and we have seen each other, but please welcome and engage with and encourage communication and dialogue with our new members in this community, as we are really, really happy that Just Transition, which is very much a local issue and a regional issue, is also a global issue, and it's important that this dialogue that we are promoting involves voices from around the world. Now, let me welcome especially some of our distinguished guests. We are all distinguished guests here, but we really, really appreciate they came. So we have with us the Minister of the Regional Development of the Czech Republic, Mr. Petr Kulhánek. Mr. Kulhánek, welcome. We have with us today the Minister of Cohesion and Regional Development of Slovenia, Mr. Alexander Jevšek. Welcome, Mr. Jevšek. We have with us today the Consul General of the Federal Republic of Germany in Wrocław, Mr. Martin Kremer. Welcome. And also today we have the Polish Ministry of Industry, represented by the Director of the Department of European Funds and Foreign Affairs, Mrs. Joanna Pauli. Do we have Mrs. Joanna with us? She may be joining shortly, but nevertheless we are very happy to be expecting her with us today. Now, the 6th annual political dialogue has been organized under the patronage of the Polish presidency of the EU Council, and we're really thrilled to be part of this really important moment in Polish history and being part of the initiative promoted under the patronage. These are the really distinguished guests, but really what makes the dialogue so truly important is a very strong representation from the regions and regional authorities. And since we have so many distinguished guests representing regional authorities, I won't be able to mention by name, but let me just stress that we have very strong representation from Czechia, from Poland, from Romania, and from Germany, and we're really thrilled to have you all of us here. Apart from the regional authorities, as we all know, Just Transition is a very local phenomenon, and we are really thrilled to have representatives of local authorities, communes, and cities that will be a very important voice in this dialogue with us today. We also meet everyone else who is not representing any of these groups. So we have with us think tanks, we have universities, we have amazing civil society that has been at the forefront of Just Transition. We have media that we appreciate highlighting the importance of the messages that we are sharing with you today. So we are truly a wonderful bunch. And I'm thrilled that we'll have these 2 days to exchange, to dialogue, to learn from each other, and I think to share also support, because as we all know, the times we are facing right now are not very easy. So you will be hearing and we'll be mentioning a lot the COL Plus regions. And what does it stand for? So obviously COL has been at the forefront of the transition and has been mentioned all over, but we are really engaging here regions that are transitioning from not only coal, but also peat, lignite, what else am I missing? Oil shale, and all those energy sources that we really need to say goodbye to in order to enjoy sustainable economies and sustainable futures. So it is coal, but it is much more than that. And to hear about all of those perspectives that we have from different experiences and from different regions, it is really important that you enjoy the richness of languages we'll be sharing with you today. So some of our speakers will be speaking in their languages, which we very much appreciate. So it's important that you can all follow. Now, for online participants, this is possible through Interactio application. So we'll be sharing a slide with a QR code in a moment. For all of you joining us here today online, please scan the code and join the application on your phone only using the word dialogue. And to all of you here with us in the room, I hope everyone has managed to pick up the translation devices, the headset and the receivers, because as I said, we really hope you will be participating and following all the sessions and all the contributions in many languages. So this is about following in different languages. Feel free, please, to reach out and get yourself a receiver. At any point, for all of you in the room, if you have any technical problems or you're in need of assistance, please find colleagues who are having the badges with orange strings. So these will be the colleagues who hopefully should be able to assist you and point you to someone to help you with the technical matters. So this is about following the language. We are a rich bunch with many languages represented, but we want much more than that. We really want to hear from you, and the modality and the format of our sessions for these 2 days is quite interactive. So we have at least 2 sessions that are Ask the Expert sessions, but at many different points we would really like to hear from you. And for some of the sessions, all of you here in the room are very much welcome to raise your hands if you want to take the floor, and you will be provided with a microphone. But for some of the sessions, and especially for those joining us online, we will be using Slido. So please make sure you have your Slido ready. So at different sessions, the moderators will be again highlighting this before the sessions, because it is a dialogue meeting. So if we don't hear from you, then we are really losing this richness of perspectives. So you can see on the slide right now, for all the people in the room, the different channels for interpretation. I hope this is helpful. And yes, please make sure to have this available. About the headsets and the receivers, please make sure to stick to them throughout the entire day, because you will need to be registering them at the very end of the event today. Okay. So I have this message to you, which is, I don't know, good news and bad news. So I will try to spin it as good news. Since you have traveled so much, and we are such a wonderful community here, we've really tried our best to make the best use of your time. So the 2 days, and especially today, will be very intensive. We will be engaging with our speakers and hearing their contributions today and engaging in the dialogue. Then after that, you will be departing for exciting 4 different site visits, depending on the group you have signed out for. And after the site visits, really to make the most of the time, you will be taken by the buses directly to the hotel, Viting Hotel, for a farewell dinner. So there will not be really time for refreshment for none of us. So as tired as we will be tired together. So this is just this information. So it will be a long day, an intensive and exciting day, but please bear with us and keep your comfortable walking shoes and your party shoes to stay with us until the evening. I think we are ready to start with the welcome and opening speeches. As I mentioned, the Commission is being represented by Mrs. Rivera. Mrs. Rivera will be joining us through the online video in a moment. She was not able to be with us here today, but she's a great friend of the initiative and the dialogue. She was a speaker back 3 years ago in Asturias, when she was still a Minister for Ecological Transition of Spain. So I think she is truly a member of our community, and we're looking forward to hearing from her now. Thank you.
Dear friends and colleagues, I'm very sorry not to be able to join you today for the 6th meeting of the annual political dialogue of the Coal Regions in Transition initiative. It is a very important initiative. We all know that when we are experiencing a challenging situation, we need to be with our friends, with our colleagues, with other people that are going through the very same experience, knowing that it is important to identify the barriers, the challenges, the successes, the frustrations, but also the recognition to all of those neighbors, to all of those local areas where there has been this experience, and for generations there have been people contributing to the construction of welfare in our countries. I remember very well the event we hosted back in 2022, together with my friends and colleagues in Asturias, the rich and meaningful exchanges we had in that occasion. I did not want to miss the opportunity to send you a brief message, because in these defining times, we continue working towards our twin goals: how to reduce dependency on fossil fuels, how to strengthen our energy security, how to move towards the full decarbonization in 2050, with no forgetting about the people, about all those local communities that have been contributing for so long to the success of the industrialization, of the energy security in our countries. We must diversify our energy supplies and build a strong domestic clean energy solutions. But at the very same time, we need to invest in people. We need to invest in the different territories, because these may be ambitious goals, but coal regions are the backbone of our fuel phase-out efforts, so we need to pay attention to the people. Let's take a moment to reflect on the progress we have made. In late May, the Commission assessed the final national energy and climate plans of all 27 member states. The news are encouraging, but we cannot forget the efforts we still have to do to come along with the different coal regions. Between 2020 and 2023, coal's share in the European Union energy mix fell by 11%. Gas dropped even more, by 22%. In Poland, coal still plays a significant role, nearly 59% of the power sector in early 2025. But we have to remember that a decade ago, coal was over 80% and renewables were just 13%. This shows to what extent Poland has made a great effort, and Polish people deserve recognition. Today, renewables stand at over 26%, and we still need to work on what solutions we may find in coal regions, how the involvement of the local authorities, the neighbours, the workers, the unions, the capacity to build new business is still the main major force to drive transition. That's real. That's measurable progress. And I want to thank you and congratulate all of you because I know how much effort this takes. Phasing out coal is not only about closing mines or phasing out of using coal in the power generation. It is also about ending fossil fuel subsidies, but it is also about the creation of opportunities, the decarbonization of manufacturing, the possibility to invest in long-lasting new business solutions, in the creation of new jobs, attracting clean industries, bringing real economic opportunities to coal regions. I want to focus on one critical piece: subsidy reform. Right now, only about half of member states recognize that phasing out fossil fuel subsidies is essential to redirect investments towards the clean transition. And it is not easy, because prices, possibilities for the general people, for the general public, may stand there. Subsidies hold us back, but at the very same time, we need to phase those subsidies out in such a way that it doesn't harm the possibility of an average citizen to cope with the energy bill, to create new opportunities. This is why gradually removing them, we can invest more in clean, innovative solutions and help workers and communities transition fairly. As part of the 2025 European Semester Spring Package, we have asked everybody to act. And yes, we will ensure this process protects vulnerable households, because no one can bear having a household which is not properly isolated, with an energy bill that cannot be affordable. We stand ready to assist these countries in transition. Coal regions can and should be at the heart of Europe's new industrial competitiveness due to their enormous potential. With the right support, any of these regions can lead in clean tech, become hubs for circular economy, attract both European and private investment, working and ensuring that we can count on trained workers for new opportunities. Because we may remain in the countries, in the regions where we want to be, where we were born, where we feel comfortable. And we need to create the opportunities to have this happening. Many of these regions already have skilled workforces, industrial bases, necessary infrastructure and access to critical raw materials, which are exactly the ingredients we need for a net zero economy. We stand firmly with you. We have supported the regions through the Coal Regions in Transition initiative since 2018. It has proven successfully and is now evolving. A new 4-year contract begins this autumn with continued technical assistance. We also have the Transition Fund, the Transition Platform. It needs to be just. The European Fair Transition Observatory could help us to understand what it works, what it doesn't work, how it can be much more effective and much more fair. We want to launch this observatory in early 2026 to track social and employment impacts. We are aligning all of this with the Net Zero Industry Act, the Critical Raw Materials Act, and the Clean Industrial Deal. Financial support is key, but we count on some important instruments, for instance, the Innovation and Modernization Funds, to the European ETS auctioning revenues and cohesion policy instruments, and soon the Competitiveness Fund focused on innovative clean industries. This summer, we will be discussing the new multi-annual financial framework, a key enabler for the clean transition in the years ahead. We are still on a complex but absolutely vital journey to phase out fossil fuels, and will put on this path for some time. But transitioning is not just closing chapters. It is mainly investing in the future, in a bright future, Is creating new chapters. Is thinking about innovation, fairness, competitiveness, and shared prosperity. Is thinking about opportunities for all. This is why we want to write those chapters with you, with a deep sense of responsibility. I wish you a very fruitful discussion today, and I'm sure that we will get your messages back and try to reflect them properly. Many thanks and have a very beautiful conference.
Thank you. These were really encouraging words for Mrs. Ribera. I have been taking notes for myself, and I think apart from all those very important and ever-growing instruments of support from the European Commission, what stuck with me is that she truly, at the very beginning of her session, mentioned the people. And it is about the communities, and it is about the communities' resilience and adaptability and ability to go through sometimes difficult times. And I think we are really privileged to be here in the region of Wielkopolska, which is internationally known exactly for those characteristics of people who have went through many transitions and they succeeded, and they're example to all of us. I would very warmly like to welcome Marshal of the Wielkopolska region, Mr. Marek Woźniak, to take a few words today and welcome our audience. And maybe tell us what is the secret to this success that you've all been enjoying here. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. I will speak Polish, so I give you a time to take the headphones for translation. Szanowni
Ladies and gentlemen, ministers, Council General, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you to the Commission for locating this event in the region of Wielkopolska, here in Konin, in the heart of eastern Wielkopolska, where we are experiencing just transformation taking place. Very challenging process, for sure, that we have undertaken together, all of us, the stakeholders, and the process that we are trying to implement effectively. It is challenging, and let me underline this word, because we have to understand that where we are over the last decades, development has been based on lignite and burning lignite in power stations, which was an important contribution of the region to the economy of the country. Well, this story, this chapter is definitely reaching its end, and all the consequences of the closeout of this chapter will be impacting, they are already impacting, in fact, on the community of this region. These decades, they were for sure the development, the decades of development. Of course, in a different political system, in a different political environment, but for sure, the development brought about the development of the city itself. For sure, the mayor will make references to that as well. But currently, we are at a stage where the strongest economic player in the region will be limiting its impact on this environment. And we have to develop alternative scenarios for development. And this poses a challenge, creating scenarios that will enable us, that will enable this transition to be not a transition that marginalizes the communities, marginalizes the position of the environment, but we want this to be a good and just transformation that is effective for the region. We have been successful in Poland, and I think it is a huge success for all of those who are taking part we have been able to configure the Just Transformation Fund in such a way that it is beyond doubt a regional fund. At the beginning, we heard some proposals for this to be a nationwide fund with regions participating as intermediary institutions, but fortunately, the discussion went in a good direction, I think, and all of the coal plus regions received a sizable amount of autonomy in earmarking their funds, in spending their budgets. And here in Wielkopolska, we also have this opportunity to really shape this current intervention independently at a regional level as a managing institution. The managing institution, the board of the region, which is an executive organ of the local government. And of course, working with the Regional Development Agency in Konin. This is in line with the postulate that we have heard so many times, that the institutions that are responsible for distributing the funds should be the closest to the actual locations where these funds will be used, the closest to the local communities, the closest to the people who will be benefiting from it. And this is the case of Konin. The Just Transformation Fund for Wielkopolska, for Eastern Wielkopolska, is 414 million euros. This amount is earmarked for this purpose only, the purpose of transformation. I have to emphasize that Eastern Wielkopolska is about 15% of the surface area of the region, but it's also using other funds that are planned for Wielkopolska. So we have a synergy effect, a synergy of funds that we have as our exclusive funds, and funds from the European Social Fund and the European Regional Development Fund and the Just Transformation Fund. This process is, I think, successful, although it is not free from challenges. Not all the scenarios that we have planned for are equally quick and efficient, and this is usually the case in such huge programs. But the level of advancement, the level of completion is already satisfactory. Although we do not have much time for the implementation of such complex processes, we are in a hurry, and a hurry is a rule, is a typical thing in expending EU funds. Sometimes negotiations take longer in the initial phase, and this later impacts the schedules for implementation for local governments, and the haste is unfortunately there. The hurry is there, and we have to face it and tackle it. Although we know that some complex processes within the program, they require more time, they require building more extensive opportunities to really shape the way we spend the money, and haste is not always a good element of it all. A big challenge, but fortunately in this region, in Eastern Wielkopolska, we have had a very positive dialogue between all the stakeholders. What I mean is companies, trade unions, NGOs, local governments, and of course the local government as the key player. As local government, we played the role of the patron, of a moderator of these processes. But it's very important that the dialogue was taking place here locally, and it led to very valuable results and outcomes and scenarios that we have been able to build. It's a very big value of such projects, building that true comprehensive social dialogue. Of course, there are controversies along the way, different viewpoints. But the key is to reach a compromise that will lead you to a goal, the common goal. This event is taking place at a stage where in the EU there is a discussion going on, a heated debate on the future budget, especially when we are confronted with what we see on a daily basis, concerns about the geopolitical scenarios for the world, especially the military threat. These impact reality as well. These impact EU reality. During our debate on the future budget, we have to tackle threads that are linked to security. I mean, military security, but also social security. Um, the question of migration, for example, and all of these challenges that we are facing at this stage. These challenges undoubtedly must be taken into account in shaping the future budget of the EU. And this, in turn, will impact the cohesion policy. And it will also impact the continuation of just transformation. Of course, I hope there won't be any negative impacts, but we have to be realistic. We have to realize that the budget will not be expanded in terms of the revenue side. So, all the challenges that we will need to tackle, we will need to tackle them using this pool of money, which will mean, in turn, the need for compromise. That need for compromise will also affect cohesion policy. As representatives of the region, we have been fighting for this regional voice in cohesion policy and also in defense of transformation funds, for this voice to be heard, for this voice to be effective as possible. I'm a moderate optimist when it comes to our effectiveness. Um, we also discussed double funding of such projects that relate to security. Of course, we need compromise there as well. But this compromise approach won't solve all of our problems and won't meet all of our expectations. When it comes to just transformation, we want to be able to continue. We realize that such social processes will not be implemented over a few years. We need at least a dozen years or so to implement them effectively. So, implementing the funding for just transformation in our regions and Coal Plus regions is highly expected, and we have high expectations of it, and we hope that this will indeed happen. Our joint voice, the Coal Plus voice, has reached the decision makers, and I hope that it will be taken into account seriously. Ladies and gentlemen, towards the end of my welcome remarks, um, well, this event also marks the one of the final events during the Polish presidency and the council, and it's important to note that Wielkopolska has also been the venue for many events during the presidency. We had the European Congress for Rural Development in Poznań. We hosted it in our region as well. We are very happy that our region was able to take part uh, as organizers of events, take part in the presidency as well. We are handing over to Denmark very shortly, and for us, the task will be to think about all the elements of dialogue that we heard in Wielkopolska. And I'm hoping that this event and tomorrow's event will yield a lot of experience exchange, a lot of information that you will find useful also in your regions that are being transformed. I wish you fruitful debates and a nice stay in our region. Use the brilliant weather, make use of the brilliant weather and all the things that we have prepared for you. All the best.
Thank you so much, Mr. Woźniak, for this really, I think, candid, very comprehensive, and very realistic and pragmatic recap of what the regions are struggling with. And I think this is a beautiful opening to having very deep discussions about the real problems. I would like to welcome very much, and especially warmly welcome, the Mayor of Konin, our host today, Mr. Piotr Korytkowski, who will welcome all of us on behalf of the city. And I think I'm expressing the gratitude from all of us for this beautiful hosting of the event.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, all from all over Europe, the representatives of the European Commission, the European Parliament, and the governments of particular states, the self-governments, social partners, and economic partners. On behalf of the inhabitants of Konin and the whole region of Western Poland, I have the privilege to welcome you to this annual political dialogue of the European Union. This is a great privilege that Konin, the city with great traditions, industrial traditions and of historical importance and with ambitious goals for the future, has become the host of such a relevant event today. We are meeting in the time of deep social, economic and climate changes. The post-coal regions like ours are currently at the heart of the European energy transformation. This transformation must not only be swift and efficient, it also must be just. That is why, as the self-government representatives, together with local partners, we appeal to you to strengthen the tools to effectively continue with the process, caring for people at the same time, caring for jobs and for the environment. For the Western Wielkopolska, just transformation is a chance for a new beginning. This is the development of competitiveness and zero emission of the industry based on innovations, new technologies, and green energy. It also is a challenge requiring support, both financial as well as expert support, especially in requalifying the employees of heavy industries and prepping them for new futuristic jobs. We can also not forget that the transformation is not just about changing the technology, it also is a social change. That is why we need to invest in people, in the skills, in the social safety and security, in the energies and aspirations. The modern climate policy in the post-coal regions must be based on the social engagement, on creation of equal opportunities and systemic strengthening of middle-sized cities like Konin, like the sub-region of Western Wielkopolska. We need to significantly stress that we are not a coherent region. We cannot compare ourselves with the central or eastern Wielkopolska. This must be noticed both by the Polish government and the European institutions. We trust in huge potential of prosumerism, that is building local energy communities and strengthens the independence of the citizens. At the same time, we need to take decisive measures to limit energy poverty so that no one is left alone facing growing living and energy costs. In this context, with great enthusiasm, we welcome the proposals of the energy package for the citizens, and that is a very important step towards a just and democratic transformation. While mentioning the development of prosumerism and the support of households through such tools like energy coupon, we cannot forget about the self-governments. We need new measures adapted to current needs and possibilities. We need new legal instruments allowing self-governments to take a maximal use of the creation of the energy clusters. Such a cluster is a green energy cluster in Konin. Thanks to proper legal rules, it could bring us huge benefits, economic benefits, resulting from own energy, both electrical and heat energy consumption, created by local energy suppliers. And I like to add that these are green energy sources, and we really are self-sufficient energetically as a city. The future of our region are new investments. We need to attract investors even more who are going to um, support the new innovative energy sectors. We want to create new jobs, offering stability and variety. That is why already today we are introducing concrete programs for the industry, preparing these people for their new roles in low emission energy creation. We need very effective mechanism in our Western Wielkopolska, and we need fast reacting institutions. Today, many attractive investment areas in our cities and regions are owned by the state treasury. We need to strengthen the mechanisms to make them available swiftly for new investments. We also need support to prepare these plots of lands for investors in such a manner so they can immediately start the implementation of the plans without the need to wait for any formalities for 2-3 years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, as the mayor of Konin, I cannot not mention the nuclear power plant. Konin is the best location for the planned nuclear power plant, the second plant in Poland. We have the appropriate experts, we have the proper energy infrastructure, we have very good geological and hydrological conditions available, and what's equally important, we have the full support of the local communities for the creation of this strategic investment. The construction of this power plant would be a strategic decision having a potential to be a driving force for the development of the whole region of Eastern Wielkopolska. Except for that, this power plant will not only ensure the energy safety of the state, it will also create thousands of jobs directly and indirectly, right from the scratch. It will also strengthen the position of Konin as a modern energy center of Poland and of Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, ahead of us a lot of challenges lie, but also lots of opportunities. Today's dialogue is a space in which we can work together on solutions that are going to make the transformation just, sustainable, and effective. I hope that Konin is going to become a symbol of Europeanness, solidarity, and determination in building a better future. I wish you very fruitful discussions, debates, and many constructive conclusions. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for your presence in Konin, in the city that is boldly facing the future, in the city which relentlessly is supplied by energy. Thank you very much.
Dziękuję serdecznie za prezentację. Thank you so much, Mayor, for the inspiration. I think there was this wonderful feeling to which your speech brought to us, which is a lot of ownership and I think a lot of clarity of what the region needs and how it wants to use all the instruments and all the support, quoting Mr. Mayor, to invest in people's aspiration and also to ensure prosperity. And I think, Matthew, welcome you to the stage. This is a wonderful opening to your session. So Mr. Matthew Baldwin, the Deputy Director at DGNR, will be moderating our first session, exploring really many of the dimensions that we have already heard about. Since we had rich presentations, we'll be shortening the session a little bit, so please bear with us and looking forward to the exchanges. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Commission, wonderful to be with you for the 6th edition of this vibrant dialogue. And I've already had my marching orders. We have less time, so there'll be less speaking to you, I hope, and a bit more dialogue. So we have to make time for that. But I couldn't begin this first panel without a few words of thanks to everyone who's worked so hard on organizing this. To the Polish presidency, coming to the end of a very, very successful Polish presidency. And last but not least, to our hosts, to Marshal Wielkopolska, Marshal Wozniak from Wielkopolska, can't read my own notes, and to Mayor Korytkowski, of course, Mayor of this beautiful town of Konin, hosting us here today. What a wonderful location. And to pick up what Executive Vice President Ribera said, this dialogue exemplifies friendship, community, and discussion. And that's what we'd like to see today as we begin to discuss in our first panel the pathways to a new future. As a challenging phrase right there. And let's remind ourselves of the trio of difficult imperatives that we face as we go into that. And I'll be very brief. Firstly, it is an imperative. The transition to cleaner forms of energy and innovative technologies to meet our commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% by 2030. We applaud, we endorse the huge efforts you're making to diminish our dependence on coal. I'll spare you the numbers on lignite and on all the efforts in the regions that you're contributing to this. The reduction in our gas imports, gas production dropping, gas imports, particularly, of course, from Russia, have fallen away. Our increases in the share of renewables, and we just heard from the mayor, the nuclear ambitions that are growing up across Europe, here in Poland, in Czechia, and elsewhere. So very much on the right track, but we have to deal with this imperative, and we need to continue our progress. And of course, the second part of that trio of imperatives is every bit of important. It's the guts of what this discussion is really about, that we need to make sure that that transition is just, inclusive, and fair for everyone. We've got to see a proper and a fair sharing of the benefits. And we've got to use programs like this to drive us forward. So it's vital, as you've just heard Executive Vice President Rivera announce, that the program support for this wonderful program, the Coal Regions in Transition, will continue. And I think I'm right in saying the tender for that is launched today. So that's wonderful news. And of course, the support plans under the Joint Transition Fund, under InvestEU and so on will continue at least until 2027. So we've got to use these programs, and that's what today is all about. And then, of course, the third imperative is, as if we needed reminding, that we live in this extraordinarily unstable and dangerous world. And therefore, we've got to help ourselves. We've got to improve our self-sufficiency in energy. We've got to drive down those energy prices, and we've got to strengthen our competitiveness. We've got to tackle our vulnerability to sudden price shocks. We've got to reduce the pressures we are putting on our industrial ecosystems. And we've got to help develop competitiveness in energy-intensive companies, clean technology industries, and of course, SMEs. Some of the tools, and I'm not going to go into them in detail, that we've got now to drive ourselves forward. The critical raw materials plan adopted last year, and we've also heard our Executive Vice President mention this, helping projects of strategic importance dealing with raw materials, whether they're extraction or recycling. These are vital, and they were promoted via what we call strategic projects. 47 of them adopted in March 2025, many of them, I'm delighted to say, coming from coal regions, such as Pole Vault in Polish Silesia. What a brilliant name that is. Cinovec, the lithium project and lithium hydroxide converter project in Czechia, and in Guben in German Brandenburg. Salrom, of course, extracting copper for batteries in Baia de Fleur in Romania. I could go on, but think about this, because being on the list of strategic projects helps get these plans better access to finance, helps them become more competitive. And this is all a way of saying, leading up to say that the second call for proposals will be in the autumn of this year, and I hope that many more projects from coal regions will apply. You know what to do. The next quick supporting instrument I wanted to touch on for coal regions is, of course, the Net Zero Industries Act. Through this act, coal regions can attract investments in clean technologies such as solar and wind, supporting the development of carbon and storage infrastructure, very beneficial for coal transitions that are moving over to clean industries. And then we've got this wonderful new name, the Net Zero Acceleration Valley. And some regions such as Lusatia in Germany are expressing strong interest in this, enabling clean tech ecosystems such as manufacturing hubs or carbon capture clusters to benefit from streamlined processes and public support. A lot of good tools, I think, within this idea of the Net Zero Acceleration Valley, all intended to create this pro-investment, pro-innovation environment that we're looking for. And the last thing I just wanted to mention in our toolkit is, of course, the Clean Industrial Deal. And under this, the Industrial Decarbonization Acceleract can offer significant added value for coal transitions that are transitioning towards a low-carbon economy, aiming to stimulate demand for EU-made clean products, streamlining our permitting and our infrastructure development. And some big numbers under this act, 100 billion euros should be mobilized to support clean manufacturing, and we should use this. All of these things can be essential for the future well-being of our coal regions. And again, that's why I'm so delighted that today we can mark the beginning of the next phase of the Coal Regions in Transition program. I'm exhausted already. I said too much, so let's get other people to do the work. I'm delighted to welcome to our stage, and perhaps you'd like to come up, 4 panelists who are going to bring us the vital political perspective to the questions I've just touched on. So please join us, Alexander Jevšek, the Minister for Cohesion and Regional Development of Slovenia, if you'd like to come up on the stage, sir. Minister Peter Kuldahanek, the Minister of Regional Development in Czechia. State Secretary Barbara Meyer for Regional Development of Saxony in Germany. Please welcome. And last but not least, Deputy Marshal Leszek Pietrzak of the Silesia region in Poland. Welcome to you all. Now, as you find your seats and have some water and get settled in ancient times, people would have to consult the prophets or the gods, Cassandra, to find out what was going on. Now we have Slido. So if you now plug in your Slido devices, Slido would like us to know the answer to this question. If we speak of the competitiveness of the coal plus regions, what is the biggest challenge for the coal regions? And here are your choices: energy prices for companies, the post-coal environmental burden, depopulation of your region, issues facing decarbonization of companies, a lack of skilled workforce, a lack of strategic political vision and perspective, or another reason. Those are your choices that Cassandra is offering to you today. Vote early and vote often, as they used to say. So that's worrying for the Commission, a lack of strategic political vision. No, I blame the politicians on the stage with me. Depopulation of your region. Okay, coming along, but the numbers are not yet settling down. I wouldn't have guessed this. This is very interesting. And I'd like to ask our speakers to offer some thoughts on this. Yeah, I think it's clear. This is very interesting. So the lack of political vision and perspective, well, that's a good challenge for all of us as we begin today's dialogue, I think, to bring that vision to us. Now, the second question for you on Slido is another conference classic. It's the word cloud question. Since our last annual political dialogue in Valencia in July 2024, which are the topics that have gained importance in your regions? And what do you think we should be focusing on most now? So there's your starter thoughts: security, continuation, citizens. You're all being very sensible here. Normally there's a rogue word. Renewables, continuation, okay. Yes, we heard from our Executive Vice President that it's all about people, and of course it is. You see, with the word cloud, we don't actually have to do anything. We can just sit back and all the words are spoken for us. A lot of diversity. I think with these pictures, you often get 2 or 3 words that are prominent, and this is a very diverse set. So I see 3 winners, 4 perhaps: security, people, continuation, and renewables. And if one word that jumps out, it is that word continuation. Each of these dialogues I've heard about, it is this desire to keep going, a sense that we've got results, we need to build on them. And those are the results that I'd like to now turn to, and to turn to our wonderful panel. As I've mentioned, we have 4 distinguished politicians from the coal-producing regions of Europe who have joined us today, and I'm very grateful to them for coming great distances here to be with us. And I'd like to turn first to you, Minister Jevšek, Minister for Cohesion and Regional Development of Slovenia. Of course, I want to put you the same question we have here in the word cloud. As the host of last year's annual political dialogue in Velenje, what's changed for you since then for Slovenian coal regions? What are the developments that you've planned, and what are the current challenges that you face? Minister, over to you, and thanks again for joining us.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for invitation. Mr. Marshall, Mr. Mayor, I have great honor to be here with you, and I have to say hello also Mayor of Velenje, which are organized last year dialogue. Hello, Peter. First of all, I have to remember year 2017. I was then, like Mr. Marshall, member of Committee of the Regions. Mm-hmm. And some of my colleagues from the Germany coal regions coming to the stage, and he has a report regarding coal regions and that a lot of people will lose jobs and so and so. And I heard him, what are you talking about? You are very optimistic. And I never mind that I will be in a position like now, like minister, to co-managing this GTF money. And I am very, very happy about that I was part of this process. And why I'm talking about this? Because the after 27 cohesion policy, GTF must to stay inside the budget, because this money means to coal regions a lot in the part of the development and everything what we will talking about. What we will do after last year? Our ministry and Ministry of Natural Resources are preparing two legislative acts for the transition of coal regions. First one is Act on the Development Restructuring of the Savinsko-Shaleshka coal region, and Act on the gradual closure of the Veleni coal mine. There are four priority areas. First, economic reconstruction, energy reconstruction, social cohesion and inclusion, and environment sensibility. We have a total budget. I spoke with our Polish colleagues before this session. We had only 250 million euro in GTF fund, but we are now really in the high-level process to absorb that money. Because we have a past experience with the closure of the Zasavie coal mine, which demonstrated the importance of preserving jobs to support regional development and retain residences. We must particularly focus on supporting young people with this process, and Just Transition Fund calls and projects are, as I said, being carried out in both regions. In the coal mining region of Zasavie, we have successfully established businesses, zones, and incubators to support local business. We opened a new branch of the Institute of Chemistry and set up the Center for Demonstration and Training in Zero Carbon Technologies. Last Friday, we led the cornerstone for the craft industrial zone La Conza. It cost 9.5 million euro. We have supported also solar power plants in both regions, a hydrogen plant and others. What is maybe important, very important, both regions has improving opportunities for young, to ensure young people are equipped with relevant skills for an evolving regional economy, and Ministry of Education has launched a target called supporting selected primary and secondary school. There are changing curriculum to this transition, and this we made in connection with Ministry for Education. That's it shortly.
Thank you very much. You've given us a perfect political perspective. You've talked about the targets you're trying to reach, the young people. You've given us a strong political message about the joint, the Just Transition Fund remaining inside the budget, and you've given us some detailed actions. I'm very grateful to you. While you're listening to these contributions, please get ready to jump in with your own comments and questions, because this is a dialogue throughout these couple of days. We really want to hear from you, and I may cut our panelists short in about 20 minutes or so to give you the floor, so be ready with your questions. I'd like to turn now to Minister Petra Kulianek. Thank you very much again for joining us. And your previous role as the governor of Kavolivari region, you're of course one of the main drivers behind the Kavolivari statement signed by over 20 regional authorities across the EU coal regions in 2023, reiterating a commitment to the just coal phase-out in the EU, but calling for more support from the Commission and from national governments. So, since the launch of that in 2023, how do you feel things have gone? Have your demands been met, or do you need more?
Thank you. Yes, definitely. Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation for my, I think, fourth annual political dialogue. When I entered the position of the governor in 2020, we know that the transition of our region is really global challenge, entering literally any part of the life in the region. So even then, or even at that time already, we know that the time till 2027 is actually very short. And that was the reason why we considered during the 2023, when we organized the annual political dialogue in Karlovy Vary, the composing the declaration which should in forward, efficient time in forward to announce that we know the transition is going on, it's functioning, it's preparing, the projects are coming into realization, but we will not have enough time to finish it until 2027. That was the purpose when we composed the declaration telling the European Commission and the entire world that we would like to continue with our activities after 2027. And I'm very glad that we found a lot of support and found a lot of regions which signed the declaration, which was actually very loud after that. And it was resonating on many levels, so on the regional level, on the national levels, and on European levels. And when we entered the ministerial meetings in Brussels, when we entered the Committee of the Regions, we knew that it will be a really strong sound for continuation. And not only continuation, but we also focused on securing the principle of partnership. We secured the principle of place-based approach. And those two key principles are already in a core of the next programming period. So yes, I'm very happy that we at that time composed the declaration, and it's resonating actually up to date.
Thank you very much. So I think I have a feeling we're going to hear this message throughout the day, that we need that partnership to continue, and that the period from 2023 to 2027 is a short period, is what I'm hearing, and that Rome was not built in a day, and nor was the just transition. Thank you very much for those initial thoughts. Get ready with your questions. I'm going to continue with the panel. And by the way, I invite the panelists to comment on each other's things as well as we go. I'd like to turn now to State Secretary Meyer, of course, the State Secretary of Regional Development in Saxony, because Saxony has been at the forefront of industrial innovation in Germany. So, Barbara, what's your region doing to align its traditional industrial base with the new focus on innovation in the context of our competitiveness policy and the push for decarbonization?
Thank you for the invitation, and thank you in the name of our region to be able to hear today at this political dialogue. Just really briefly to Saxony, we are living our second transformation. We have had one transformation in 1990 after the fall of the Berlin Wall, and we wanted to introduce social economic in Germany and reach competitiveness in our industry, and also for microelectronics sector, for example. There has been a lot of competition in this sector, and decarbonization is strongly related to these industry sectors. I would just look to some other sectors, for example, the automotive sector in Saxony. 1 in 8 cars is produced in Saxony, so Zwickau is a city that has adapted to climate neutrality very quickly and is an important location where we are transforming to the production of electric cars. Demand for electric cars is shrinking in Germany. Why? Because in Germany we are still lacking infrastructure for electric cars. So to be able to be competitive in Germany and also to decarbonize, we need the corresponding conditions, and we have to develop the market. Not only Volkswagen has been dealing with some difficulties, but also other companies, for example, suppliers and machine producers. They started to diversify, looking at electrification, but they don't know how things will continue in the future, and this creates huge challenges for them. So we also want to support those businesses with all of what we've learned from the transformation processes that we've lived before, also with lignite, for example, for electricity production. We have always tried to find work for workers for the future. We are focusing on research and transfer of knowledge, because research institutes are looking to the future, and our goal is to transform their results into businesses that are already existing so that they can offer new services for the market and create new jobs. And on the other hand, we want to support new businesses that can be created based on this research in order to create new jobs. So this is one of our focus areas. However, we also want to decarbonize the energy sector, and for this we need energy for affordable prices. We are supporting this with the JTF funds. Amongst others, we support NIPRAG and LIAG, two companies that want to stay energy businesses. So even after the phase out of lignite, they want to produce energy. They want to produce clean energy in the future. And in Germany, we don't only want to phase out from lignite, but also from nuclear energy. So we are focusing on renewable energies, on wind and solar energy. But for this, we need energy storage. We need to be able to store energy. This is why we also support those who create storage capacities. And why is this so important to us? It is important because the existing businesses have an advantage compared to new businesses, because they already have a certain infrastructure for electricity to be able to distribute electricity to consumers, and we have to use this infrastructure, because if we don't, the energy transformation will be too expensive for us. So this is something that we also have to focus on.
A burst of enthusiastic applause for your remarks. Thank you very much. And, you know, for those of you who signaled a lack of political vision, I think we're hearing it already from our first three speakers about where they're looking to take us in terms of the challenges. Interested to hear your example about automotive cars, because I think the challenges of the competitiveness conundrum require us to be ready for everything. I doubt very much, Barbara, this time last year, you thought you'd be in the middle of a trade policy challenge in terms of dealing with the automotive question. And that's, of course, where we are. We have, in this complex and difficult world, we have to be ready for everything. And thank you for your remarks. Last of our four speakers I'm going to introduce now is, of course, Deputy Marshal Pietrzak of Silesia in Poland. Silesia Step aside Konin, is the largest coal region in Poland and amongst the biggest in Europe. Of course, over the last 10 years, Poland and its coal regions have seen a massive reduction in the share of coal in the electricity mix from 91% in 2005 all the way down to just about 50% last year. So Silesia, as you continue to move away from coal, what are your main priorities in your strategy to keep your economic resilience and promote regional competitiveness?
Dzień dobry.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the invitation from the previous speakers. You know that I am participating in this meeting for the first time, and I came with huge expectations to search for practical solutions. Oh, of course, I'm also waiting for visions, but more for practical solutions. I'm responsible for the transformation in the region, and together with my employees, both male and female, who are accompanying me here today, we have the ambitions to lead the region and the people safely through the process ahead of us. And for that, we need concrete solutions. I also, ladies and gentlemen, am lucky enough to be working in special forces for the last 20 years. This is where I was taught that planning and running each and every process needs very detailed planning and all circumstances and analysis of all circumstances, and we need to run the process based on what we encounter in these circumstances. The coal industry in Silesia is a sector that is actually functioning based on a social agreement. This is a very important instrument. The social agreement has shifted the perspective of the coal mining a day after it's been signed in Shlonsk. We started hearing that coal mining is about to hit a dead end. Before that, we thought it's impossible that coal mining will exist forever. And now even the priest, when giving their sermons, tell that the coal mining is about to end and we need to prepare for that. So this sort of an anecdotic joke that I allowed myself to use to picture the situation. I also use it to say that the decarbonization has accelerated very much. Those who've been working on the social deal, social agreement a couple of years ago, did not predict that Polish coal mining is now mining and selling as much coal as they are supposed to mine and sell in 2033. So this is a significant acceleration. In 2023, 33, sorry, Polish mining was supposed to be leaner by a few thousand of people and poorer by a few mining facilities. And this is the situation that we're facing already now. And because of that, we need to redefine how the sector is supposed to be functioning. It doesn't mean that we should break the social agreement, social deal, but we need people to be able to use the voluntary leave possibilities. One of the biggest coal miners have arranged a survey among its employees asking how many of his employees would be willing to leave the sector out of their own will, and 12,000 said yes, we are willing to leave the sector now. It's a huge change in their heads. It seems that it's a sign that they see chances for themselves to work outside of this industry, and this is one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is securing access to cheap energy. We are the third biggest producer of energy in the country. When looking at traditional methods of energy production in Poland, it is based historically. It has historical and political roots, and in Silesia, going away from traditional energy production is a very much of a different challenge in comparison to other regions of Europe. How much we appreciate or not appreciate the renewable energy, we need to be aware that it's not going to guarantee safe energy supply in each and every weather conditions and in each and every time of the year. We know that there are plans for nuclear power plants in Poland, but this is a plan for the 30s with the finalization of the first power plants in the 40s. Then we'd be able to produce about 80 megawatts of energy. But until then, we need to function based on coal-fired energy production. So we need to plan exactly how we're going to transit away from this energy production method. And this is the second element we should focus on. And the third element, this is something that the previous speaker said, we need to keep the balance. On one hand, people need safety. They need to be taken care of, for example, from the healthcare perspective, from the workplace perspective. And for that, we need funds from the Just Transformation Fund. So we want to use these funds to invest into research and development units. We are also searching for investors who would be willing to create companies in Silesia. And I'm about to finish now. We want to redefine the transformation of coal mining companies. We don't want them to phase out and then on one day and search for an investor. So for the next day, we want these companies to think 2-3 years in advance about what they are willing to do with their companies. We want them to think of requalifying their employees because we know that they have a huge pool of knowledge and skills, and they are willing to run the full economic transportation based on that.
On that vision thing, I very much like what you said about keeping the social deal intact. That's going to be crucial for all of our credibility. The fact that you had 12,000 workers ready to leave the sector that they and their fathers and their grandfathers have been working in is an extraordinary testament, I think, to that credibility and trust in the system, which in turn relies on the third point you mentioned, keeping the balance, being able to provide that continued healthcare, workplace support, which in turn relies on funding. I'm not naive. That's what people are expecting to hear from the European Union today. And I wish I'd come with my checkbook, but I haven't come with my checkbook. But also private investors and that link. And then last but not least, of course, securing of cheap access to energy. We are dangerously short of time. So I'd like to put one question more to you. Be ready with your questions from the floor, please. But I'd like to put one question to all of you to home in on this. And I'd like to begin with you, Peter. And that is how your reactions to the policy instruments and tools that we've put forward. I mentioned in my opening remarks, the Net Zero Industry Act, the critical raw materials deals. How are these policy tools, instruments effectively supporting regions undergoing transition in the EU? And then even more importantly, what should we be focusing on in the next round that we're now going to have for the coal regions in transition initiative? What do we should be focusing on in the future? Maybe if I could turn to each of you for your reactions to that, beginning with you, Minister Konin.
Okay, thank you. As I said, the transition entered literally every piece of life in the region. And to continue with the transition, which is great potential for the region to be changed, we need really time to be continued after 2027. That's the first key proposal. If we understand the result-oriented approach. However, we ask for more flexibility in the future to really be able to validate where do we need the help of the European support. Because it's not only industrial transition, it goes into landscape transition, it goes to education transition, it goes to social transition. And if we have proved by European Commission the strategy, how do we want to change the region, the support should be continued and more flexible. Of course, we understand with the lowering budget, we need to be oriented more to financial tools, which we accept. However, still, in some cases and in some areas, there is need to be secured some part of the subsidy to be continued as well. If we are talking about the transition of the whole region and about the quality of life, we need that help, which we are flexible in the decision to create the final result, I mean the transited region, not only to stop the demographic change in the means of leaving the population from the region, but be ready also with the conditions on quality of life to attract new people coming to the regions, because it's not only work which we need to offer them, but we need to offer them all the public services they need for the life. And it means that what is planned from the European Commission, and we still actually don't know what would be the final decision, if it would be JTF2 or if it would be part of some other program or programs. It's very important for us to know as soon as possible. And once again, I call for maximum flexibility and trust for the regions to be ready, use the support as they know where they need it.
Thank you very much. I think you have some supporters for those words in this hall. And just to flag for you, that proposal, not the final decision, because that's of course for the Council and the Parliament, that proposal on the next multi-annual financial framework, the budget, is coming up in July. So this is a very timely moment for us to be carrying your messages back to Brussels. So bearing that in mind, let's turn now to Minister Jevšek. What would your wish list be in terms of those challenges coming up? And how are our instruments and tools that we have on the table, how are they working?
Well, I said before that we have to, after 27 cohesion period, continue with GTF. Not because of money and because of absorption, this money. It is important, but not the most important. Not because green transition. Transition in coal regions is something more important. Why? Because working in gold mine is modus of workers' life. It is not only job. And change this modus of life is something more important than money. We had last year, I think that in the start of 24, one terrible accident in gold mine in Shaleshka Dolina. 3 young workers died in the gold mine. However, we have the best technique, the best security, they died. And you have to see the life in this region. For 1 month, 2 months, life is stopped. And this is message for us, which are managing for transition and for the GTF money. And for that reason, I and my colleagues from Ministry of Regional Development and Cohesion Policy are many times in Shaleshka Dolina and in Zagoria. Because you cannot, like politicals, send messages, command, and managing from your office from center of the country to the region. You have to go there. Yeah. And because of that, you have to feeling that people. and listening to them. And this is very important, and why I said before that Mayor of Velenia is here. During the energy crisis, the energy was a little bit expensive than usually. There was a lot of people, hundreds of people, 1,000 people on the streets. They're demonstrated because energy is our duty, energy is our because we produce energy.
Yeah.
And because of that, Peter and team working very, very, very carefully with these people, and we are same team, and politicians have to work together with them. And we have promote solar energy, wind power energy, and everything that they will feel, the people will feel that those energy is also from them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's why we need politicians to feel what people are thinking and saying and to replay that. That's so important. State Secretary Meyer, what's your view on this same question? What are how do you think our tools and how do you foresee the next round of the coal regions in transition initiative?
Thank you very much. I would like to agree with the previous speakers because I think that the instrument of the JTF is a very good one and helps us in the transformation. Regarding the inclusion of the people in the regions, because it is about their identity, it is about education for something new, because it is about maintaining the old culture while at the same time creating a new one. That is why we are very much in favor of a continuation of JTF. But you also asked what we thought of other acts by the European Union. And I would like to mention the Net Zero Industry Act here, and to simply say that the region of the Lausitz got on the way in Saxony and in Brandenburg both, as a model region of a net zero valley in Europe, to become one of the first ones in Europe. And the important or the most important thing in this process so far is that the region got together, the people in the region, the people in charge in the municipalities, in the towns and villages in the district said that they wanted to go this way together, and they're betting on battery and energy storage technology, on hydrogen technology and new electric grid technologies. Let me say a bit more about hydrogen. Hydrogen, to a degree, is the hope that hydrogen will be the solution of all our problems. But the issue is that so far there is no market there for it yet. We need to create this market. That is why I have to say you don't only have black and white, you have lots of shades of gray in between. And maybe just in order to create a market for hydrogen, we shouldn't just look at black and white. And a further aspect, Saxony is the European Center of Microelectronics. We're producing loads of chips. With the help of the European Union, this is possible. What we would like to achieve is a combination between the European Chips Act and the AI Act, so that the AI Act also facilitates a further development of the chips industry, because this is happening in front of the doorstep in Lausitz, in the Lausitz region, and that would be a beautiful connection. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for taking us into some of the specifics of things that are happening. Hydrogen, microelectronics, and all the good things that are planned in Saxony to take advantage of these programs. The last word goes to Deputy Marshal Petrusek on this question. And then I want to give, if I may, the room to have one right of reply, the hungriest, the keenest, the most enthusiastic person to comment on what she or he has heard. But firstly, Deputy Marshal Petrušek, please.
Okay, so summing up, I will say once again that in Silesia, again, the mining is 70,000 people. When you add to that the number of people who work in related companies, in companies related to the mining industry, we are talking about a few 100,000 people. The perspective of 2049 resulting from the social contract, even if we don't need mining until 2049, but it will stick around for that period of time until 2049, sorry. So the conclusion is that we do need support. Yes, these funds should be available through the JTF. Yes, they should be available through the JTF. Should these funds be functioning as a separate fund, perhaps? Maybe so. Yes, we think that they would be expended more efficiently in this scenario, that we would be able to further transform Silesia thanks to these funds. The level of unemployment in Silesia is 3.8%, and our intention is to keep it as low as it is. And the last question, and my answer to that question is, should these funds be available by regions? Absolutely, yes. We are in favor of this solution 100%. And this is the way we approach the situation. We count on joint actions in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A resounding call, which we have heard and we take back now. Who is going to speak for the room? I've been told by my very, very tough timekeepers that we are almost out of time. Who would like to speak up? This is a dialogue, ladies and gentlemen. You're not taking your right of reply. Yes, at the back. Be very, very short, please, but tell us what you would like to say.
Good morning. I'm coming from Slovakia. I represent Consumer Association, and I want to ask about the directive, about the greenwashing directive, which was actually announced recently will be postponed or will not go further. I would like to know the opinion of these panelists, because the correct and true information in just transition is crucial. And when we want to fight against disinformation, we really need legislation like this directive. So I would like to know their opinion on greenwashing.
So you've asked a question which is a very much inside Brussels question, but I know a question of concern across Europe about the plans of the Commission, the European institutions, to take forward what's called the greenwashing directive. I'm not sure that our panelists are in detailed knowledge about this, so perhaps this is one we take to our coffee break to take forward. But there's one more person who wanted to say something. With the power of the chair, I'm going to give you the right to speak up, but I'll be very quick. One last question, one last point. Thank you.
Thank you. Carsten Rothbauer on behalf of ICLE Europe. I would like to ask the question, aren't we in a dilemma? We have heard here about the political ambition, and I would call for political ambition towards going for as much renewables as possible. The question is, in terms of crisis, where the energy prices were high, we, I think, achieved a lot renewables with that step. Now we are looking into how to subsidize the current energy mix, and also financing solutions which potentially take a long time to be established. So the question is how to dissolve the dilemma, how to be more bold. Aren't we reaching more with investing much faster in renewables than in other technologies? Thank you.
Anyone would like to give a 30-second reply to that? Yeah, I think the question is how much investment should we now be bringing to renewables as a way to help drive our diversified energy mix? Should we be investing more in renewables to keep that moving forward? Minister, you get the right to reply.
I can just tell from my experience from the region, Karlovar region, that we can invest into renewables only that amount of money and that volume of energy still to have a stability of the network. So it means with each renewable we need a capacity of stabilizing source, which may be in some regions and in some countries lack of stable sources to really compensate the renewable sources. So that's why in our country we have the strategic decision to build the new nuclear power station to have really stable source to be in balance with all nowadays and future renewable sources. That has to be in balance.
So this is the backdrop, thank you very much. This is the backdrop question for, I think, of a lot of our discussions today about the energy mix. I think, as you probably heard, there's a diversity of views, including on renewables and nuclear on this panel. And we can take that also to our coffee break. This has been a fabulous introduction to our day's work. Thanks to our brilliant 4 panelists. Thanks to you for your questions. Let's keep the debate going. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we kindly invite you to a short coffee break that will be served in the foyer at the ground floor. Very important information to all those that I hope there are none, but if anyone is leaving the room already, please, leaving the conference entirely, please make sure to return the headsets and the receivers and to scan the code to sign out. For all of those who are remaining, feel free to keep the receivers with you or on the seats for the remaining sessions. The colleagues who have signed up for target bilateral sessions are kindly invited to join now at the reception desk, and they will be guided through there. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming back and detaching from the wonderful pastries downstairs. I'm kindly inviting everyone to take their seats, as we still have a very rich, very interesting, and very thought-provocative materials to go through and discuss. So kindly take your seats. As we are taking the seats, I was informed that someone has left a mobile phone behind. So this will be with me. It says that local time at home is 4:26 p.m., so someone is already in a different time zone. So if you hear of anyone losing the phone, this is with me. Please be seated as we are trying to proceed. I was thrilled to see all the exchanges and dialogue in the coffee breaks. We will have more of these. We will have a lunch break, and then we'll have a lovely evening together. So all the things that you have heard, all the questions you want to ask, and mingling you want to do, there will be still opportunities. But the sessions are really important for us to, again, feed into those conversations. So I've covered the phone, housekeeping rules. Again, we will have contributions in different languages, so please be prepared with your headsets and the receivers. For all the colleagues joining us online, please be sure to be using Interaction to be able to follow the discussions. And as previously, we will love to hear from you through Slido, so please be prepared there as well. We have an exciting session that will be moderated in the moment, but I have a request here. Michał, are you ready now? Should I introduce you? So we have a bit of an exciting momentum that is, I understand, a letter from the regions, the core regions in transition, and I will just pass the floor to you now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. We are coming to you from Poland, of course, from Poland, and one of the regions, it is a region from the border with the Germany and the Czech Republic. It's called Subregion Turów. In Poland, there are 8 coal regions without any support of JTF. There is a great risk of 2-speed transition. For example, the Turów subregion will probably be closed within 5 or 10 years. Now, there is a gap of any funding. We can use the modernization fund, but we need the support of the European Commission. That needs involvement of all of you, of the politicians, of the people, of the regions, of the countries. We need you. Let's not leave anyone behind. Because when we leave those regions that are without any support, the whole society will turn out of the Green Deal, will turn out of the new way of living. That's why we cannot leave anyone behind. That's why we need you. Thank you. So this is the letter.
Dzień dobry Państwu.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Alicja Messerschmidt, who is the representative of the local trade unions of the engineering and technical employees in PAK lignite mine in Konin. Thank you for accepting our invitation and thank you for participating in this very serious event. I personally I've started the transformation in cooperation with the European Commission in 2019 in a first post-call platform, and this is where I presented the problems of the Eastern Wielkopolska, and I let them know that there is this Konin and Turków area that is going to struggle with the transformation. This is where the transformation started in our region. Well, we were hoping that the European Commission is going to support us in this tough time, in these tough times, and I was not wrong. It was so. We've been received by all commissioners of the previous period, and we've been learning how to start the transformation. Today, we're at the stage where we have a program called The Road to Employment After Coal. And this is a road for our employees who are going to leave the lignite mining industry. We already went through this part of this transformation in 2026. The lignite mine in Konin will be completely closed. Not to leave our employees without any help. There are 14 trade organizations from the ZEPAK group who decided, well, I'm sorry, but I need to say what I want to say, and please do not disturb me while I'm doing that. Anyhow, we've started, 14 trade union organizations started to prepare a road towards employment after coal in cooperation with the board of the company. Please imagine 14 trade organizations and the board of the company who speak one language. And this is really beautiful. A program has been envisioned and we started to implement it. Unfortunately, a small of, well, maybe I won't call it a misunderstanding, but something happened so that our employees did not get the permission to use the devices used previously for mining of fossil fuels. And this is a great obstacle. For us, it is most important now that those who got the funds from the European Commission get the possibility to use the program, and they cannot use this program. Today, I like to hand over a writing. I thought we'll have the commissioner here and I'll be able to give this statement to the commissioner, but since he's not here, I'll give it to his deputy. Well, I hope that the European Commission will not just look at us with their eyes, but also with their hearts. There should be some derogations, maybe not for the companies, but for employee programs. They keep telling us that we have alternative devices that we can purchase, and we were supposed to be able to purchase the devices from the mine for 100,000 zloty. Alternatives on the market cost 600,000 zloty. So that does not allow them to use these devices, to afford them, and so to use the funds. So I hope that the European Commission will have a closer look at our program again and do everything it can so that the employees may use the funds that the Commission has handed over to us. And we're very grateful for these funds. Without those funds, it would be difficult to even talk about it. So I don't want to cause any more delays now. I'll just give the statement to the representative of the Commission now.
Dziękuję serdecznie. Dziękuję. Dear colleagues who are just presenting, no apologies accepted. So this was not in the program, but it has been such an important contribution, I think, to all of us that we highly appreciate all the voices and the letter, and we hope that this will be an important, meaningful contribution further on. I think really continuing in the spirit of what we have just seen and also the sessions before, I would kindly invite you right now to our next session, which is very close to everyone's heart, and especially our speakers. It's about empowering citizens. And we've heard a lot about investing in people, inspiring people, and empowering people. So I'm inviting Gabriele Galassi, a colleague from Ecoris, who is very much focusing in his work on energy and citizenship, to moderate the next panel. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure for me to be here and to moderate this session and to talk about empowering people through energy policy in coal plus regions. Today, we will explore how citizens can become central actors in the energy transition. How can they be empowered? How can they play an active role in the energy markets? And how can they be something beyond just mere consumers? We want to explore today how we bring citizens closer to the energy market and how this affects the transition of coal plus regions that are undergoing major economic and social transformation. Bringing citizens closer to the energy markets means providing them with all the necessary tools and knowledge to better understand the energy system, but also how to increase and maximize all the benefits that they can get from it. As such, the concept of citizen energy encompasses a series of initiatives, approaches, actions that aim to give citizens a central role in the energy markets. And in fact, there's more than just consumerism out there. And it is one of our objectives today to explore how these initiatives, policies, and strategies aimed at empowering citizens in the energy markets are effective and useful in coal plus regions. Now, very quickly, I'm going to tell you how we will proceed. So we'll begin with a keynote presentation from the European Commission, and then we will ask you to participate to our Slido questions, and we will reflect about your answers with our panelists, and then we will open the panel discussion. And finally, we will close with a very quick Q&A in which you can ask the questions to our panelists. Now, I'm pleased to welcome our keynote speaker, Matthew Baldwin, head of the European Commission's new task force on housing and Deputy Director General DG Ener. You already know him because of the opening session, so I will very briefly say a couple of words about him and then leave him the floor for this keynote speech. Mr. Baldwin has led major initiatives from coordinating the phase-out of Russian energy imports to shaping the 100 climate neutral and smart cities mission. He also held senior roles in DG Move, DG Trade, and worked closely with several commissioners and the Commission President. With deep experience in energy, housing, transport, and climate, and a strong belief in the power of cities and communities, he brings key insights to today's discussion on empowering citizens in coal-plus regions. Please join me in welcoming Matthew Baldwin again.
Yes, I'm sorry, it's me again. How can you tell when the Commission has had a role in organizing a conference? Because we have the microphone the whole time and we love to speak. So I shall be short to introduce what I think will be a really brilliant panel discussion. Thank you, Gabrielle. We've heard a lot this morning about competitiveness and industrialization and the need for secure and sustainable energy supply. The crucial missing element, I think, from the things we've discussed so far is this issue of energy affordability, both for our industry, but even more importantly for our citizens. To put it simply, high energy costs are killing us. The energy crisis exemplifies that more than ever. We reckon that energy poverty is affecting more than 46 million citizens. These are 46 million people who cannot afford to heat or cool their homes. Retail electricity prices have almost doubled since the beginning of the energy crisis in 2021. So what are we going to do about it, I hear you say? We came forward with the Action Plan for Affordable Energy Prices to address this burning topic. The plan, adopted together with the Clean Industrial Deal, presents measures to lower the energy bills for industry, for businesses, for households in the short term, whilst also fast-tracking the essential cost-saving structural reforms for the longer term. Now, again, a lot of this is about structural change to our economy and to our energy systems. But in the past, we have not done enough, I think, to look at how, as individuals, or even more importantly, communities, we can tackle those costs to reduce our consumption. Yeah. Also, use our energy more efficiently at times of lower market prices, but also to produce and use our own energy. We've developed, therefore, this concept, which I'm sure you all know about, the concept of energy communities, but we've seen, despite the growing emphasis on renewable energy at all levels of our society, at all levels of our energy system, that participation is still quite limited. As of early last year, we had around 9,000 energy communities in Europe. That's a good number, but that only engaged about 1.5 million citizens. That's a tiny fraction of our population, and that's, in a way, it's good news. It's significant untapped potential for future energy citizens' involvement in the energy transition. Why is this? Often the trust of consumers in energy markets is low. We can all blame, I think, unscrupulous tele-sales marketing. I don't know about you, I get about 5 calls a day from telecom companies or energy companies trying to sell me something. And I think paradoxically that turns us all off. It limits the role for genuinely innovative offers from energy companies and services to reach us. And of course, then the even more paradoxical result is that consumers pay higher prices than they need to. We see all the evidence that there's a lot of inertia. People stay with the same contract and the supplier. A report by ACER showed that if all EU consumers switched regularly to the best available offers, on average, we could be saving 200 euros per year per citizen. So there's a lot of money being left on the table. We've got a good framework, we think, for consumer rights in the Clean Energy Package, and that's already existing for 6 years, from 2019. We've done some revision of the electricity and the gas markets, but some of these rules are not fully implemented or transformed. So this is the focus for us, the challenge, if you like, in what lies behind the upcoming Citizens' Energy Package, which was announced in my boss, Commissioner Jorgensen's mission letter. It was also announced in the Action Plan for Affordable Energy, and you can expect to see it hit the streets by the end of this year. Now, it's for the political level to decide, but our current thinking is that we should be focusing on 4 things. 1, empowerment of citizens and supporting of local energy communities. We've got to really enable citizens to produce and sell and use their own energy. 2, households consumers and businesses should be getting the best of their retail contracts, should be able to really take advantage of their rights and of the benefits of a well-functioning retail market. 3, we've got to get active and we've got to get real about energy poverty, supporting the communities, the regions and the population groups affected. And 4, we've got to support local action for a just energy transition. We've got to ensure that the communities and the regions that are most impacted by this transition get the support they need to help everyone reap the benefits. And let's use the next couple of days to really explore how we can do that better. Our current thinking, therefore, is that probably don't expect a whole chunk of new legislation, but get ready to expect ways in which we can make this energy transition real, we can make the mechanisms we have in place function better. But again, we're here today to listen and to learn. It's about, we're sure, it'll only work if we have a partnership, formal or informal, between all players, all the way from the local to the European level. We need to address the inequalities. We need to provide support to the impacted stakeholders and local authorities that are really in the front line of addressing the energy transition on the ground. So we'll be working closely with the member states. We think one of the tricks would be to provide better guidance to member states to support them in implementing key provisions such as on contract offers, on supplier risk management, on energy communities and energy sharing, on protecting the most vulnerable in disconnection. We know that happens at times of energy stress, as well as, of course, in phasing out gas. And so together we think we can do a lot to address the barriers which are preventing take-up, engagement in and benefiting from collective energy initiatives. And we'll come forward with a plan to precisely boost the deployment. Let's just remind ourselves quickly why that's important. Every citizen that puts in solar panels or renovates their home or does so on the basis of a community action, which we're seeing more and more, is directly contributing to Europe's energy transition and to Europe's energy security. Every time we shift demand away from peaks, we reduce energy prices, we reduce price volatility. I know there are folks here from Southeastern Europe who saw appalling spikes last summer. We will reduce the impact of that. And last but not least, we save money. When groups of citizens come together to invest in renewables, our collective impact is multiplied. Studies show that joining an energy community can save an individual around €1,000 annually. So let's get after this. Let's make sure we find ways of better accessing information, understanding our own consumer rights, and support the transition. But here's the good news. We ain't fixed in our ideas as to how we're going to do this. In addition to what we will learn here and in the coffee breaks and in the dinners tonight, we've launched on Friday an open public consultation on all of these topics. So please get out there and tell us in detail, in writing, tell your friends, tell your families, tell your communities what is needed to enable this initiative to better respond to your needs. Looking forward to the panel discussion. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baldwin. And now I have the pleasure of welcoming on stage all the different panelists that are in this session. I will start by Etienne Viennot, who is the head of the European International Affairs, the Regional Sustainability Agency in Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region in France. Then I welcome on stage Petra Czakowska, Vice President and Energy Expert of SOS Slovakia. I welcome on stage also Bartosz Kwiatowski, Director at the Polish office of Frank Bolt. I welcome Stavros Spiridakos, an expert on energy efficiency and stakeholder engagement at IEECP Greece. And lastly, Maciej Sitek, the President of the Regional Development Agency of Konin. Now, as I mentioned, we will have to start with a Slido, and I think that you know a little bit the drill on how to participate to this survey. So you have to scan the QR code and then provide us with your answers. The key topic of today is how to encourage citizens to become active participants in energy markets, and how can coal regions promote and realize citizen empowerment. You have multiple choices here, and we give you 1 minute maximum to provide us with your answers, and then I will turn to our panelists to reflect a bit and comment on the different answers that you give us. So it seems that community-owned energy initiatives are very much the top strategy for coal regions to promote and realize citizen empowerment, and with a pretty solid 67%. So maybe I can start asking our panelists to reflect on these answers. So what about yourself, Etienne? Do you agree with this with the distribution of the answers, or you feel that we are missing something, especially from your experience in your region?
Yes, thank you. Do you hear me? Yeah. I don't know which one I would choose, because it's quite difficult, and the three are very interesting for engaging citizens in the energy transition. For sure, my experience in the energy transition and in energy communities we have in Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes will leave me with the community-owned energy initiative, because you really have citizens are actors of the energy transition in these cities, in energy communities. So that's I think that's very important to reach the goal of the transition and the just transition.
Thanks a lot. And now I would like to ask Petra whether this is something that is also common in Slovakia, and from her experience, especially when it comes to consumer behavior and protection, if community-owned energy initiatives are a key strategy for empowering citizens and making them active in the energy markets with a central role.
Yes, I'm coming from consumer association, so we also try to make consumers more active and became prosumers. And we were very active also with the legislation about communities, but it's not so simple in reality, because we see that people are interested, but when you want to get them to shift to the green transition, the solutions must be accessible, affordable, and the people need to see the best way, very fast result. This is not the reality in Slovakia right now, because when you would ask me these questions 3 years ago, when we had different government, the people were very enthusiastic. They were keen also to join our collective purchase campaigns, because we also organize collective purchases for consumers who want to install PV panels or heat pumps. But now, when the government changed and all the fiscal and financial measures are pointing us towards Russian gas and nuclear, this is also very demotivating for consumers. And I believe also very important factor are still regulated prices for the gas. So it means people need more motivation also in these sectors to become prosumers and to create energy communities.
Thanks a lot, Petra. I would like now to jump to the second slide or question of the session. So you will have to scan the QR code again, but this time we have the very popular word cloud as a way of answering the question. And we want to know what is the main added value of citizens' participation in energy programs for you, just in one word, and we can then kickstart the panel discussion on empowering citizens. I will give you again 1 minute. I see empowerment and independence as a key answer here, but also community, lower energy bills and cheap energy, acceptance. Public acceptance is also an important aspect of citizens' participation. Someone would say an important result of citizen participation in energy markets. Awareness, ownership, and cheap energy. Well, I think that while you keep answering this question, I can directly ask our remaining panelists to reflect a little bit on the answer that we are receiving. So, Maciej, do you think that these different words reflect the added value of citizen participation in energy programs, or are we missing something?
Dzień dobry.
I think patience is one word that I would add. Because sometimes these projects can take long. And before you see the results, people get discouraged. And also, I think that we should not apply one measure and one metric to all countries. Each and every country is different and prefers a different solution. For some, the key aspect is the price. For others, independence will be the driver. When you drive through eastern Wielkopolska, if you go to my village, 50-60% of rooftops have PV installations on them. That's what people do. But when I visited Malta recently, I didn't see any panels there. I don't know what the reason is. Is it a cultural reason? Maybe the prices are too high there. So I think solutions should be different and tailored to different communities. I am definitely a proponent of community energy because this is the cheapest way to ensure energy production. Because a part of the burden and the cost of production is borne by the citizen. So there's no silver bullet, but we should be looking for solutions that are fit for purpose, tailored to groups of individuals and communities. Thank you.
I would like to ask Stavros, how does he feel about this workload? Are we missing something, or does it reflect a little bit his experience and the situation in Greece, or is it something completely odd and different?
Thank you very, very much, Gabriel. One minor comment for the first question. It was quite convenient to have the Commission talking about energy communities and the first answer to be energy communities. That's quite motivation. It was a success, I would say, of Mr. Baldwin's speech. I mean, it motivated at least all of the public. Now, based on the values, I mean, I will talk only about my personal experience. That's basically what I know. In the last year, I've been working in a lot, like in the citizen-led renovation, which is an initiative by the Commission, in the supporting the preparation of the social climate plans, in some projects like Justem and the others. And my main focus on the citizen engagement were 6 specific values, 6 specific, I would say, core principles, that I am not seeing all of them in the table in your answers. I will just read them firstly and then elaborate on them one. First is the trust. We need the citizens as we need this trust. We need people to trust us, and we need this exchange of trust among us and the citizens. We need the relevance. I mean, they are the ones who know what's happening the most, the proximity, the participation, the capacity. And the last and most important is the own efforts. They are the ones that are working on the ground. We need them to assist us working together on the ground and all this. As I said, I'm going to elaborate a little bit, if I'm allowed, of course. About the trust, we need the recognition of the local realities. We need this kind of trust. We need them in many vulnerable groups, especially in different coal regions, when the industrialization has been a core topic, I would say. The idea of a green or energy transition is usually being met with mistrust or with resistance. That's why we should build trust together with them, and we should try to present to them that renewable energy sources, investments, renovations, or other green, I would say, transition initiatives are not something that is coming from the outside. It has a lot of understanding, or at least a little, and respect to their social impacts as well. Additionally, there are really the main core of the citizen participation and on why we need the citizen together with us in all the policy making, the decision making, but also in the implementation and in the actions. We need the benefits to be tangible and visible in the local reality, in the local ecosystem, I would say. I think my friend will agree on this one. Many communities are a little bit skeptical about the environmental goals that a lot of these initiatives will reach. That's why we need them to support on this one, to make all our actions more impactful. And I would say from the last part, we need them as everything that is developed in the Commission should be transferred to the locals. That's why you need to select the most appropriate person to transfer this knowledge, this opinion. This means that, as I learned from the social climate plans and the citizen-led innovation, who delivers the message is really equally important as the message itself. So that's why we need the locals. We need the locals to be with us, to support us in all the actions, and to be the ones who are acting in the ground, following our guidelines.
Thanks a lot, Stavros. Now, starting from the word cloud, I would like to ask Bartosz directly a question, but also considering what Stavros just mentioned about the importance of trust in building this relationship with citizens and their understanding and acceptance of the need for renewable energy. So, Bartosz, reflecting on the different words that came up in the word cloud, but also, what do you think about the concept of public acceptance that is often low in coal-dependent area? From a legal perspective, how can stronger citizen rights and clearer frameworks help improve this trust-building process between the citizens and the authority? And also, what role do businesses play in this overall process?
As I can see, the Polish and English translations are nearly equally popular, so I will switch to Polish maybe to make some balance in our panel. I będę mówił po polsku już od teraz do Państwa.
Well, let me debate on the main postulate here. It is my great honor to have lived over the first 20 years of my life in the capital of coal in Poland, Katowice. The anthem of my high school started with the words, "High run the chimneys of Silesia." But the fact that I have this experience does not mean that, of course, this is the future of Silesia, of the region, that this should cast a shadow over our future. Well, we saw the picture of shafts of ex-mine shafts against the backdrop of a science center in Katowice, and this is a good picture depicting how Katowice, how these regions are developing, how local governments are working with local people to make sure that things are improving, also in terms of air quality. I don't see that much of a difference between coal regions and non-coal regions. Our clean air program outcomes show that the engagement of local citizens in Silesia is very high, and it's definitely comparable to other regions. Of course, there are variations, but they are caused by other factors rather than the region itself. So that is the first thing. Let's not pigeonhole coal regions. These are very modern, very fast transforming regions and places to live. Now, the second thing is we did experience a crisis of trust to renewables. We are still going through it. The clean air program that I mentioned was part of it. We had some cheats, some companies that cheated consumers by selling them equipment that simply was not able to work in the buildings, or the buildings were not fit for the purpose of installation of renewables, and people still spend money because those companies earned money on them, and this needs to be changed. This has been changed. For example, heat pumps, in 60%, the beneficiaries got the money, but now we have reverted to biomass heaters, and we have to go back to the renewables. And what we lack at this stage is strategy. That was clear in the first panel. The first question was, well, the first question was about engagement of politicians and strategy. Unfortunately, we do not have such a strategy in Poland. In other countries, it looks differently. Different dates crop up. Turów 2040, Konin. It's going to appear faster. In Silesia 2049, the social contract mentioned by the Marshal shows that there is no strategy. If we think that we'll be extracting coal in 2049, who are we fooling? Are we fooling ourselves? Are we fooling miners? Are we fooling those who are working with this industry? Do they know whether they should be making further investments in the industry or not? Maybe they will be. Maybe this will mean changes in the legislation. Maybe net metering principles will change. Will my household be eligible for subsidies, etc.? So we don't know these things. So there's no strategy. We need a strategy that is legally binding. And another thing that is important, that is necessary when you talk to communities: simplification of legal framework. Simplification is important. Of course, as a lawyer, it may sound strange from me saying that we need simplification of rules, but if lawyers like myself have problems interpreting legal rules, then this shows you the scale of the problem. We have problems sometimes interpreting the differences between different regulations, and this is proof and evidence of the overall problem being there. Sometimes we transpose without even giving it a thought. Some EU regulations sometimes won't work well in the local context. Very often, legal provisions are for were designed for large companies, which are no longer the only producers of energy. So energy communities are still treated as an addition to the system that very often impacts the stability of the system, etc. Often those prosumers are switched off because they produce too much on peak days, and we get reports from such smaller producers of energy. We therefore need a legal change, understanding that these stakeholders, large companies and smaller prosumers, should be equal partners on an equal footing that work towards the reduction of prices. And then we adapt our grid, we adapt our system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bartosz. Now, speaking of consumer trust and its centrality in the energy transition, but also in the empowering of citizens in the energy markets, and given the fact that we have an expert and a very experienced person in building consumer trust and protecting consumers in the energy markets, I would like to ask Petra, how can EU initiatives empower citizens beyond just consumers within the energy markets?
This answer could be could be very long, but speaking for Slovakia, the main thing is to implement those initiatives on the national level. Because we see in Slovakia, people are willing to join energy transition. They are willing to shift to PV panels or heat pumps, or create energy community. But in reality, for example, for heat pump owners, electricity is still twice as expensive as gas. For PV panels, it is still a huge problem in some regions in Slovakia to connect to the grid, because the capacity of the grid is still very limited. Also, the price of the electricity, for example, there are still a lot of fees which are not connected with the consumption of electricity. For example, until recently, we still have paid for the coal transition. We still have paid for the TV in our energy bills. There is also a lot of governmental measures accepted only recently, which actually increased the tax for heat pumps, for PV panels, for installations, and this should go in the opposite direction, as we have seen in the EU initiatives. Also for energy communities, for Slovakia, the best position would be the citizens living in a block of flats. But we recently have done a small research on one block of flat with 120 flats, and there are also shops and doctors' practices. And for them, it's very difficult to disconnect from the central heating systems. Because, for example, in my city, in Poprad, the heating company based on gas, central heating system, is owned by the municipality, and is the same municipality which needs to give their approval to this block of flats when they want to disconnect from this central heating. They don't want to do it because they would lose money, because they want to earn money on their system, centralized system. And also they need to give these blocks of flats the permission to, for example, make the holes to investigate if there is warm water for heat pump, for example. And if they don't give this permission, or don't permission to place the heat pump, because you need also the space outside where you place it, you finished. So nice initiatives are coming for European Union, for Slovakia, luckily, because otherwise we would be many years behind. But in the field, consumers need to see that these initiatives are beneficial, really beneficial for them. For example, now we see when you have PV panels, after 1 year, you can easily calculate the savings and how much less you are paying for the electricity. But then you have news saying that actually manufacturers of PV panels are coming from China or Asia, and the question is, where are going the information they have about you? So this makes people very insecure. With heat pumps, there is much more and more complicated barriers we are seeing in the field. And there is also very strong propaganda coming from every side, which makes consumers very, very insecure. And as I said before, until we will have regulated prices for the gas, consumers, especially in our part of Europe, where we have lived like for decades in this system, they don't really are able to imagine they are able to control their energy consumption, and they are not motivated to change their behavior.
Thanks a lot, Petra. So we've explored the legal environment for citizen empowerment. We've also explored a little bit how we need to inform citizens and make them aware. But now we would like to touch upon the engagement and the participation aspect of the citizens into the energy markets and the different initiatives and projects, because also via using participation engagement, we do build trust. Hence, I would like to ask Etienne whether, given the fact that his agency has experience in supporting regional and local authorities in shaping sustainable energy strategies, and he's seen a lot of participatory processes in which citizens are engaged in the development of these strategies and these initiatives, what are the key benefits for citizens, but also for the development of the strategies themselves when there is a participation approach?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think the first benefit is really to get the money out of the bank. We really need to have this private investment in the energy transition, and citizens have sometimes energy saving accounts in the bank, and we need to use this money. Just to give you an idea, in France, in my country, we have about 6 billion euro only on two saving accounts, the most popular in France, that you can take the money every day at the bank and put it back. So if we could mobilize at least 1% of this total amount every year, it could be very nice. So I really think that we need this private money. It has been said in the previous panel that the strategies need usually public money, and there was this request from these regions of Poland, and citizen investment is a way to get out the money of the bank, and I think that's very important. Other benefits are quite well known. It's the better social acceptance of renewable energy sources, for sure. It's local governance. It's important. It's empowering citizens with energy transition skills. What does it mean, empowering them? Understand the energy transition, but also sometimes to train them to have some, let's say, better energy savings at home. Because when you are owner of, I don't know, a PV production plant in an energy community, you understand what is this energy that you're going to sell and what are the savings you can do at home by, I don't know, reducing the heat of your, the temperature of your hot water, etc. So it's also this that is really interesting. I think there's also a good way to better use a renewable energy potential, because when you know it came that some citizens join themselves to produce energy, and maybe they can also have some public authority with them, they are going to choose the, let's say, the best roof, the most oriented, the one that are big, because sometimes in your house you don't have the place. I live in a flat in the center city of Lyon. I can't have any PV panel on my roof. It's absolutely forbidden because it's in the center, etc. But I can invest, you know, in some roof that are around the city, that are well-oriented, when you can have some energy savings because of the scale of the installation. I think also that's a way also to stabilize the price. You can choose, you know, some specific scheme like collective self-consumption in an energy community. It's not mandatory, but you can use this system to guarantee the price and the share of the price on your consumption. And I think that's also interesting. We have a lot this model of energy community, let's say PV plant, where you produce, you consume, or you sell. But there are plenty of other ways to also engage, not only PV. We have this kind of overproduction of electricity in Europe that creates some problems. And we can also produce renewable heat with energy community. We can also, thanks to other services like e-mobility, we are also exploring with the European Commission the citizen-led renovation, how can energy community brings to, I don't know, renovate some buildings, private buildings, but also public buildings. So the range of benefit is very wide.
Thanks a lot, Etienne. Now that we've explored how participatory approaches help the engagement and the empowerment of cities and energy markets, I would like to ask from the other side of the river, from Stavros, whether your perspective, what makes citizen engagement strategies effective at the local level, and particularly in those communities that are, for instance, economically vulnerable or even skeptical of renewable energy projects.
Thank you very, very much, Gabriel, for this question. Indeed, my work together with the communities under different initiatives has benefited me a lot, not only in my work, but in my personal life as well. One comment I want to make is that last year in the annual political dialogue in Veleni, I think the mayor can confirm as well, we were hearing about only the money, that the just transition about money, how to get the resources, how to get the funds, how to allocate the funds. Now we are making it much more inclusive. We're discussing about job creation, we're discussing about, as Etienne mentioned, about social acceptance, we're discussing all the other perspectives and dimensions, I would say, of just transition, which makes me much, much, much happier. Regarding this perspective that you asked about what can we bring to the communities, how we can assist the communities, as previously said, we have first of all to establish the trust. The trust is the most important to me, as previously mentioned. I don't want to elaborate much on this one as I already did. I want just to make that my comment and my statement is just, okay, we have done a lot of consultation with the communities through the different projects. The Just Transition platform is here to consultate also as well with guidance, with tools, with all the appropriate material that is needed to guide all the communities, all the Just Transition areas. We need, though, to shift from the consultation to the co-creation. We have to proceed with the engagement, to make the real engagement with the citizens, to move beyond just informing citizens, but most important, to empower them in order to shape the decisions, which to me is the most important one. For example, as my next to me panels mentioned, like about air quality, they're the ones who have to decide, for example, a renovation, how it should be done and what will be the outcomes of this one. They should co-develop with us the renovation roadmaps in order to have the outcome, as they are going to benefit from the outcome. And as mentioned in my last, I would say, I'm so happy to hear that a lot of people are starting investing in prioritizing the skills and the capacity of all the just transition, not just infrastructure, but the whole in general of capacity buildings. I'm seeing like a lot of just transition areas, a lot of one-stop shops are being developed, like a place where you can go, you can learn, they can guide you with everything that's existed. Trust me, there are a lot of materials and guidance existing in the Commission from different initiatives and different projects that can be easily replicated and, of course, specified and unified to the specific case. And we cannot really expect for citizens to participate meaningfully in energy markets or in renovation processes if we don't support them with a knowledge, with a confidence. They need a little bit that support as well. They need us to feel confident that they're not going to fail. As the just transition is a huge step, is a risky step. Of course, it has some in-between steps, as I discussed in the breaks with some of the others. But they need confidence to make these steps, to go one step further, to go out of coal, to leave the whole industry, the hard industry, where it was coal or carbon intense, and try to go to a little bit much greener, as this will make their lives better and their quality and the environment much better for them. As the most important part is that the just transition can be real, can be affecting them as well. They can see the results right now, not only for the future generation. The results from the just transition can be visible now and today.
Thanks a lot, Stavros. Well, now, just to conclude the panel discussion, before we go into the Q&A, I would like to ask Maciej whether as someone coordinating regional transformation and also considering what has been discussed here today, what are the concrete actions that have helped ensuring that local governments and citizens are not just merely and purely informed, but also are shaping the future of the region? And especially, what are the main challenges that Coal Plus regions, like yours, face in engaging vulnerable groups in energy transition initiatives?
Well, we need to divide this getting to the citizens into few segments. We have citizens that are very well aware of the process and able to engage in the process. And for them, we have very simple solutions available. For example, umbrella projects that were organized in the Western Wielkopolska region. These are projects in which the initiator gathering the local communities is the municipality equipped with proper tools and devices to plan the process. And few hundreds of people apply. We supply funds from the EU funds and somebody supervising the whole process. Let's not expect people to be experts in this area. If I ask you what kind of heat pump shall you choose, 90% of participants here would not know what we're even talking about, how to run through all the process. Do I need a modernization of my installation or not? And we're talking about participation, but what sort of participation? We need to give them ready solutions. The umbrella projects give great results. The people apply, the municipality runs through the whole procedure, and we have somebody to address in the process. And we also include those who are making the energy assessment of particular buildings to see whether the building is possible to renovate or not. If a 19-year-old lady comes to lives in a building and a company comes and ask her a question, well, do you need a heat pump? She's not able to answer. If she uses coal and heats up the stove with the coal, she knows she'll be warm, and we'll try to explain them very complicated processes that she's simply not able to comprehend. And we, as self-governments, as local communities, are responsible for granting very concrete solutions to these people, not just knowledge. One of the concrete solutions was the program called Life After Coal. This is a program in which in each and every community we add a climate advisor. He is very well educated in both environmental protection and EU funds, and he helps the citizens to write a good application, because most people have absolutely no idea how to apply for European funds, because this is complicated, difficult. I struggle with that. I'm not even saying that somebody comes to write an application out thanks to which he'll going to get the money, but then he'll have to settle all these payments, and then somebody will come and tell him that, well, you have spent it the wrong way and you need to give it back. We cannot impose a process on people where millions of people will learn how to run a thermal renovation of the building or choose appropriate PV panels. And we should even punish companies who use the lack of knowledge of such people, who come to a old lady in a disorderly house that falls apart and proposes her a new heat pump. So we are responsible for that. We should run such umbrella process. We need to support the citizens concretely in preparing appropriate resources, in telling people which company is a good company offering good product and which one is offering some sort of junk. I think you want to say Chinese product. And the responsibility behind the self-governments who distribute the EU funds is extremely important. We can say a lot here, but in Eastern Wielkopolska, 90% of the buildings are supposed to go through a thermal modernization. We thermal modernize buildings, public buildings, schools, but all these buildings. And we should be talking about that, how to save money, not just how to produce it and create new panels and lead to a new tough situation. We need somehow renovate private buildings. We need them to consume less energy, and then we'll have to produce less energy. Even today, if I need to smoke a cigarette, I need an electronic cigarette, so everything is powered by electricity. But these are real actions that we have implemented in Eastern Poland. Once we announced the umbrella project, we have announced 190 million zloty of funds, and people got engaged because they trusted the self-governments, local self-governments. If they don't trust them, then we won't make them change their way of thinking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maciej. Unfortunately, we do not have a lot of time for questions, but I think we can allow just one. So I open now the floor to questions. You can either raise your hand or use the Slido to ask your question online. And I guess that our colleagues in the room will give you the mic immediately. Okay, we have one question in the room.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your inputs. My name is Emma Kraus. I'm part of the JTP Secretariat. I'd be curious to hear from the panel, because we've focused on several different topics kind of in the overarching energy communities bubble. And I'd be curious to talk a little bit about projects that aren't from the prosumer side, but are still indeed energy communities, whether they're community-owned and benefiting the larger community, or perhaps a joint ownership model, a public-private partnership that's benefiting the larger community and are on a bit of a bigger scale, so not behind the meter. I'm curious if maybe you could speak to some of the successes that you perhaps have seen in your regions for these kinds of projects, or if you have any good examples of them from your experiences. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So, any of our panelists would like to volunteer to take this question? Petra, please.
I don't know if it's exactly the answer to your question, but I can mention, I already mentioned our collective purchase campaigns. This is not energy community in a legal way or in a technical way, but in this project we actually gather a big group of consumers who want to switch to PV panels or heat pumps, and we actually create a website where they can register. And the more consumers we get, the better negotiation can be organized with the suppliers, who can offer their products to these campaigns for lower prices. And we actually lead the consumers all the way. Like we have heard, this process to switch to heat pump or PV panels is technically very difficult and complicated for consumers. And in this case, we actually check the supplier, we check their contracts, so there are not unfair terms or conditions. We negotiate a big discount. These appliances they offer are tested by independent ECRT organizations, so they need to get a big amount of points in these tests even. And also, if there are any disputes afterwards, we are helping consumers to deal with these problems. And we actually also try to, we have contract with the suppliers, and they are obliged by this contract really advise to consumers when they ask for heat pump, for example, and they see, because they need to personally visit their homes and to make some kind of audit, and when they can see this old lady needs to insulate the house first, and then she can go for the heat pump. They are obliged to not to install the heat pump, but give this old lady another advice how to proceed to be able to prepare for this big exchange.
Thanks a lot, Petra. So we've had quite an important and general and big question from the audience, and I'm sure that you will gladly pick it up during the lunch break to further explore it. So I leave you to it, and I thank you all for this session. I thank all our speakers for their insights and for their honesty as well. And I wish you a nice continuation of the conference and of your staying here in Konin.
Thank you very much. Just the last 2 words. The lunch for majority of us is being served on the ground floor, so you're very much invited. Please be back at before 2:15 so we can reconvene with our sessions. The kind guests invited to the high-level working lunch are invited to join us here on the right side, and you will be escorted to the room where the working lunch is happening. If anyone is leaving us at this stage and parting ways with the conference, we are kindly asking you to sign out their headsets and the receivers, very important thing. Otherwise, please stick to them. Thank you.
The transition to climate neutrality is full steam ahead in the EU. Coal plus regions, those dependent on coal, lignite, peat, and oil shale, face challenges, but also have many opportunities. The European Commission's Initiative for Coal Regions in Transition, aligned with the EU Green Deal, provides resources and tailored support to help these regions succeed in their energy transitions. The initiative has built a community of EU coal regions, connecting local practitioners with EU decision makers and international peers. The annual political dialogue, hosted in a different coal region each year, fosters collaboration and knowledge exchange to drive a greener future.
Could meet people from trade unions, from local governments, from regional governments, from national governments, but also mining industry. The initiative managed to bring all these different kind of people together, which sparks a lot of energy.
The annual political dialogue also showcases transition solutions, with site visits offering valuable insights into regional experiences. The event is also a platform to share knowledge and research and explore best practices and lessons learned.
We started some years ago to go in Brussels to participate to different events. We met other regions that faced the same challenges, the same problems, and we started actually to collaborate. And now in Geo Valley we really have friends everywhere in Europe and in these regions in transition.
Over time, this event has strengthened local and regional partnerships, producing outcomes like the Karlovy Vary Declaration, which emphasized coal phase-out, joint action, and community building. A sustainable, resilient future is only possible through a just transition that leaves no one behind. Visit the initiative's website to learn about future events and discover how we can work together to forge new paths forward.
I keep on finding very interesting stuff the whole day, so I don't know, like, it has to be there. Okay, so this one I'm not taking, but with the phone I had a chance. Welcome everyone after the lunch break. Thank you so much for finding it in your hearts and in your brains to stay focused here with us. I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful time relaxing a little bit and engaging with your colleagues. We have one more session with a bit of a different format. This time, you remember how we are promising from the beginning it's a dialogue, and we would like to ask, hear your questions. This time, we're generally going to just listen to your questions because we have a format which is Ask an Expert, and that's really a room to hear from you. So that in a moment. After that, I will introduce a little bit more detail about the site visits and the remaining part of the program. But before we move with that even, I wanted to take a small sort of monitoring of how are we doing on this community level that I genuinely believe we are. So I wanted to ask a quick question to everyone to raise your hands, just to get a sense of how many of you in the room managed to meet or at least say hello to someone that you have seen or met in the previous editions of the annual political dialogue. Raise your hands. Great. I'm seeing good share of hands, so I hope these were interesting and, in a way, sentimental exchanges. How many of you have managed to speak to a new exciting person that you haven't seen before at the annual meetings? Hands up. Very good, I think we are doing very well. And the last question, how many of you are looking forward to our integration and the dinner together and hopefully after party in the evening? Okay, so I hope by the time we'll have even more people looking forward to it. We appreciate that this is a long day, but also we love the enthusiasm and we love the exchanges and hope that this is yet another opportunity to do it. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce and welcome to the stage Anja Schneider of Bloomberg Philanthropies, who will kindly take forward with this interactive panel of Ask the Expert and engage all of you in the discussions that we're all looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So exciting to be here, and everyone seems still awake, so that's good news. I'm Anja Schneider. I run the European Environment Program for Bloomberg Philanthropies. And you might have heard just earlier that we also brought an international delegation here. So if you have the chance to speak to them, we have some colleagues from Indonesia, China, Brazil, and the US. So it's great. Thank you for welcoming us. As we mentioned, this session is quite unique and will rely on you to send your questions through via Slido. I think there's going to be a QR code just appearing now, but you can send your questions through Slido with the code #dialogue on slido.com. And to make things a bit smoother, if you could indicate if it's for a particular panelist, who the question is going to. So this session, I'm very excited because I think it's a very important session, is how can we attract private investments to coal plus regions? We will have a set of really interesting experts from around Europe that are going to join us today. Help me in welcoming them to the stage. So first, I would like to welcome Grzegorz Rabsztyn, the head of representation of the European Investment Bank, who's based in Warsaw, here in Poland, and who has decades of experience in finance, of course, and is going to be sharing with us how the EIB is supporting with their various financial instruments, but also with their advisory support and what they can offer to coal regions. I would like to also welcome here Mathilda Lindbald, who is the advisor on industrial affairs for Business Europe. For those who are not familiar with Business Europe, they're the leading business organization across Europe. I believe they represent over 40 national business federations, so very important voice. So she brings her expertise and, of course, her business perspective on the challenges and opportunities on attracting investments and also how we can attract industries and investments in coal regions. Also, welcome to the stage Eric Weber, who's the CEO and founder of SpinLab and representative of the European Digital Innovation Hub. And I think Eric, great, welcome to the stage. Good, luckily you come on time. And German precision. Oh, that's great. And SpinLab has been recognized as one of the best startup hubs in Germany, as based in Leipzig. I would also like to welcome to the stage Peter, Votopal, who's the program manager at DG Regio, the European Commission, and overseeing structural investment and the just transition mechanism in Czech Republic and Slovakia. Thank you, Peter. And Tom Vanham, who's the CEO of LRM. For those who are not familiar with LRM, it's the Limburg Reconversion Company based in Belgium, in the province of Limburg. The province of Limburg, 30 years ago, closed their last coal mining region. So Tom will be able to share his experience in transforming former coal regions into thriving hubs of venture capital and innovation. So as we move through the session, and before I invite Gregos to come and give the first remarks, I would encourage you to send some, of course, some questions, because we will be relying on you. So again, hashtag dialogue, send your questions through. And to kick us off, Gregos, I would like to welcome you to give us the remarks and tell us how EIB is supporting coal mining regions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anya. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. I'm very happy to actually share with you the EIB's experience and role in supporting just transition. Many people associate just transition mechanism only with the first pillar, meaning the Just Transition Fund, but I want to tell you today that as the European Investment Bank, we have the offer of debt instruments available for just transition regions, both for the private sector, both for the public sector, but also advisory, which is, I believe, very useful in many cases. So let me give you in the beginning a general overview, maybe a flavor what EIB is and what EIB is doing, because the European Investment Bank is obviously the EU bank, and the bank of the Investment Bank of the European Union. We are governed by the EU member states, and these are our shareholders. And we are actually the largest multilateral lender in the world, with 89 billion euro of annual financing and almost 6 billion financing to Poland, including to just transition regions. We are actually like a AAA rated European institution, but also a bank, and we are borrowing the funds on capital markets and transferring the financial advantage of our financing to the final beneficiaries, because we are, as the institution, not oriented on profits. And we are also the EU Climate Bank, and actually we have so-called Climate Bank Roadmap, our investment program, according to which we do finance only projects which are Paris aligned. We want to finance, and our goal is to provide more than 50% in our annual financing for climate action, environmental sustainability, energy transition projects. And by our financing, we want to mobilize in this decade until 2030 1 trillion euro of new green investments. But one of the pillars also of our actually Climate Bank roadmap is just transition, obviously not to leave anyone behind, and especially in the regions where there are, obviously which bear higher socioeconomic cost of the transition. And as I said, just transition mechanism, as you all know, it's not only the fund. Many people associated only with the fund, and we as the EIB can obviously support and co-finance projects which get grants from the Just Transition Fund. But under Pillar 2 of the Just Transition Mechanism, which is mainly dedicated for private sector entities, we can provide financing for private sector companies under so-called InvestEU program. InvestEU program is the program of the European Commission, which is to mobilize investments in Europe within this multi-annual financial framework, which is actually implemented mainly by the European Investment Bank. The goal is to mobilize even 372 billion of new investments. in specific dedicated sector, including just transition, because if the projects under InvestEU are located, I mean, financed by InvestEU are located in the just transition regions, we are happy to cover them by the financing under this just transition component under InvestEU, and I will get into details shortly about the products that we offer for private companies. But there is also a third pillar dedicated more to the public sector entities, but also to, let's say, private companies, but which actually are entrusted with the public mission. So the third pillar, meaning the public sector loan facility, which combines grants from the European Commission with the EIB financing. But on top of that, you can see that also EIB is very active in terms of advisory. So in the first pillar, but not only, Jaspers is very active, was also active in preparing the just transition plans and supporting the preparation, but also now can be helpful in terms of preparing specific projects for the grants or receiving EIB financing. Pillar 2, obviously, InvestEU Advisory Hub, very, large advisory initiative which can be offered for, used by both private and public sector entities, and combines different types of advisory initiatives that were implemented in the past and are still implemented by the EIB, including Urbis, Elena, different other initiatives as well. And finally, pillar 3, the dedicated 35 million euro for just transition advisory support for the just transition regions in relation to getting the public sector loan facility, to getting the grants, but also EIB financing. So let me move now to InvestEU, the second pillar. As I said, this is like the new program which is to mobilize investments within the European Union, and it is based on EC guarantee. So the guarantee actually is provided in 75% to the European Investment Bank Group, and thanks to this guarantee we are able to finance projects of a higher risk profile. So we can finance projects which would otherwise not only be financed not only by the EIB but also by the private sector. If we actually think about, like attracting private investments into cold regions, and if we talk about this is also the role of InvestEU. We as the EIB, thanks to InvestEU, want to attract and crowd in private investments, but also private financial institutions to finance projects, originated and promoted by the public sector entities. If we look at the so-called policy windows under InvestEU, they are all very relevant for the just transition as well. Sustainable infrastructure, this is actually the window, the policy area where like energy transition plays a vital role, and 60% of this window is to be dedicated, of financing under this pillar is to be dedicated for like the green transition, energy transition projects. Research, innovation, digitization, also to increase the level of innovation in the just transition region. SME window, this actually part of the program is implemented by the European Investment Fund, our daughter company in the European Investment Bank Group, which via financial intermediaries, either commercial lenders, commercial banks, or venture capital funds, provides funding, financing for SMEs. And social investment and skills, like a window which is usually associated with just transition, but obviously it's not only the social investment and skills which matter in the just transition regions. Very quickly, I will leave time also for questions. You can ask me during the panel or after the panel. I'm happy to tell you more about the instruments. But in the second pillar, in the InvestEU just transition component, we can provide corporate lending, but even more project finance financing. Why project finance? Because it's a bit more risky type of transactions, actually implemented by special purpose vehicles, mainly in relation to energy transition projects or creating newer renewable energy sources. Also in terms of real estate or urban rehabilitation projects, this is something where project finance transactions which are based on and the financing of which is based on future profits of a special purpose company created for the purpose of implementing such projects. These projects are a bit more risky and very often covered and supported by InvestEU, but we can also provide regular corporate financing for usually large enterprises, but also mid-caps. Then we move to the public sector loan facility. European Commission has dedicated 1.5 billion euros for grants under this Just Transition third pillar. You can get, EIB can provide up to 10 billion euros of financing under the PSLF. And together with EIB financing, you can get from 15 up to 25% of the grant. The 15 and 25% is actually the portion of EIB loan dedicated to a given project. And 15 is in regions in transition, like in Konin here in Wielkopolska, and 25 is for cohesion, less developed regions. And you have to, if you are interested in a public sector entity, you will have a mission dedicated or an entrusted public mission to fulfill. You apply both to the European Commission and to the EIB to get the grant and the financing. We usually advise to start with the EIB. The process is actually a bit time-consuming, and the scope of the projects needs to be defined before you apply for the grant. As the grant part depends on the amount of EIB loan, and the financing. The grant payment will be made only after the signature of EIB loan. Instruments under the public sector loan facility, very quickly, I'm happy to get into more details with you later on. Investment loans, so regular direct lending to the beneficiaries, to the borrowers for specific given projects in the public sector, construction of a tramway line, of a railway line, acquisition of new bus, like clean or EV battery bus fleet. Different types of projects. The scope is quite broad. Framework loans, this is something that we usually do with the municipalities, at least in Poland. So the financing for large investment programs and different types of investments included in the program, starting from urban rehabilitation, regeneration, through clean transport, through district heating, through water and wastewater projects, different types of projects which can be included in the framework loans. And finally, potentially intermediated lending for smaller projects via financial intermediaries. You can see the cycle of applying for the grants and for the loans. As I said, probably it's the best to start with the European Investment Bank. But on top of that, we do have dedicated advisory initiative. I told you about this advisory support under the third pillar PSLF, dedicated 35 million euros for support in preparation of the projects, in financial advice in relation to getting the funding, the grants, or the debt financing from the EIB. And this is also the case for Target, the dedicated initiative. We also have our colleagues here from Target, Sharunas Bruzge, who is with us to tell you in more detail about this program. This is actually a program dedicated to supporting energy projects, energy efficiency, clean energy as well. And on top of that, we also do have Jasper's initiative, which was very active in supporting the preparation of the Just Transition plans, but it's also available to prepare the projects for getting different types of support under the Just Transition. And our colleagues Marcin Itczak as well is here today to tell you more details and support you in also preparation of such projects. So we are available here as the EIB. We have a comprehensive offer. We treat just transition as one of definitely our priorities. And I'm happy to answer further questions from your side in the panel, but also after the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Grzegorz. Now, of course, I had to have some technical difficulties, but oh, yes, okay. So don't forget that this question will only be as dynamic if you send through the questions. So please scan the QR code and send through. I see already some questions coming through, so that's very helpful. So I'm going to turn to Matilda. You have a very important perspective, of course, from the business side. And with the new Commission mandate, we know that it's all about competitiveness, about a clean industry. What do you think the EU can do to attract business to invest in some of these coal plus regions? And what do you think are some of the challenges that businesses currently encounter when they try to do investments there?
Thanks a lot. Great, this is working. I'm not going to make you deaf. So thanks a lot for the good question, and thanks a lot for having us here. It's been very interesting to hear from others on the more on the ground perspective from the regions as well. So I'll try to bring a European perspective on this, and I would like to start with focusing on the framework conditions, or improving the framework conditions for private investments in general. This is for us really the key thing here. And if we talk about increasing investments by energy-intensive industries, for instance, in clean tech production, we have to first recognize, of course, that their ways to decarbonize and replace coal will be very different. So there will be electrification will be one part of the process. You can electrify some parts of the processes. Hydrogen, biomass, CCS for hard-to-abate emissions as well. And this brings me to the first point that I would like to raise on is technology neutrality. If it's something that deters private investments, it's when we have too much micromanagement from the public sector. And don't get me wrong, we really need to have stable, long-term visions, and this can be achieved through good regulations. I mean, investment cycles can be 20 years, if not longer. But we have to be sure that, or make sure that we allow room for innovation, because the solutions will differ a lot depending on the sector, depending on the regions, as we've heard as well before here. And I would also like to, you mentioned the barriers. So if the ways to decarbonize will be different depending on the sector, they do face a lot of similar challenges. And these include high energy costs, long permitting procedures, regulatory burdens, unfair international competition, and sometimes lack of consumers that are able to pay or willing to pay a green premium for products that can sometimes be, or often is more expensive to produce. And here the EU can do a lot, and it's a lot of topics. So I hope that I can dive into a few more also later on in the during the panel. But can highlight maybe just bring in the international perspective as well. That unfortunately, if we have so without strong carbon leakage measures, we will see investments being driven away from coal plus regions and from Europe in general. So here we need to make sure that we improve CBAM. For instance, we need to have an exports adjustment solution. And I'm mentioning this also too, since the topic is dialogue here today, we had some interesting conversations during lunch on this as well. And then let me just finalize on, or finish with one point, so on the role of public funding. And here we do see that there is, it's definitely a need for public funding to de-risk and incentivize or stimulate, trigger some of the private investments that will be needed. And we heard about InvestEU, so that was really, really interesting, and that's one part, of course. We see that there's a need for increased EU funding, so new or existing facilities, time-limited support for OPEX, CAPEX. We could use state aid to some. It also has a key role to play if we do it in a way that still preserves the level playing field. Innovation fund, also good tool. Here we have to increase or expand the scope, so it doesn't only support innovative and, or rather, it doesn't support only breakthrough technologies, but have a looking at decarbonization of industries broadly. I'm sure I could mention a lot of other points, but I think I would also like to hear from other parts of the panel. So I'll stop there and looking forward to the rest of the conversation.
Thank you, Matilda. Before I go to Eric, because there's tons of questions coming from EIB, maybe I'll just go briefly to you. Can you give some examples of projects financed by in just transition regions? And can EIB support other coal regions which are not included in the GTF, like Turów area and Lublin, for example?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. I will refer to one of the projects actually financed in Poland. It was a project, financed under the Framework Loan Investment Program of Dąbrowa Górnicza, actually. It was a group of investment financed by the EIB group under one framework. And this was the best. This is actually now the best example of EIB support under the public sector loan facility. Dąbrowa received 25% of the grant for this project. And actually under public sector loan facility, if we talk about support under this third pillar, we have, the projects that can be financed under PSLF are the projects either located directly in the just transition regions or projects outside the just transition regions, but if the project have positive influence on the just transition as well, so positive impact on the JTM regions. So yes, in principle, depending on the type of the project, it can be outside the regular JTM region.
Perfect. Eric, thank you for joining us. You have a lot of experience with startup ecosystems, which are quite important for some of the coal region. What do you think is the role of startup accelerators in the transformation of these kind of regions? And how can startups be attracted to rural areas, for example? What should be the strategy of those regions to attract startups?
Yes, so to let you know, we are running 3 different hubs in Germany, basically in Leipzig, which is one of the Just Transition Fund target areas. We have another one in Dresden, which is close to Lusatia, which is one of the other regions, but Dresden itself is not part of the focus regions. And another one in Hanover, which has nothing to do with coal. So in the past years, we supported around 200 startups from all over Europe, mainly, of course, German startups, as we are in Germany, but also a good share of startups from other EU countries, including Poland, Czech Republic, and others. So all in all, these startups collected 500 million in funding, including EIC grants, including EIB, including Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe, and so on and so forth. And the thing is that from my experience, it's very, very hard to move these kind of startups. And to be honest, for the last 3 years or 4 years, it even got harder during COVID because everyone is now used to work in home office. You have the engineers working in completely different cities. You have software developers from all over the world competing in one startup. So what is your argument to move the headquarters of such a startup to any region This is a very tricky thing. And I often see that in politics and administration, sometimes we have the feeling, okay, we only have to offer an infrastructure, or we only have to offer a grant, and put a requirement that the headquarter needs to be there and there. And then there's a big demand from the startup side. I really doubt that this way you will get the most promising startups. You will get the one who really desire to get these public grants, right? So most likely not the best ones. But what you can definitely do is that for more the urban areas that are maybe close to these coal regions, like Leipzig, for example, or Dresden, it's very important to make these regions very attractive to startups, and then you have these spillover effects to the regions around. This requires a very good connection by public transport, for example. So we talk a lot about more the infrastructure side, right? But if you look into Leipzig, for example, there's a really perfect example how this worked. So Leipzig, after the reunification, was quite poor, high unemployment and so on. But then we were lucky enough to win some big industry players like Porsche, BMW, DHL, and so on, to move to Leipzig, and everything, most of them are located in the north of Leipzig, so actually quite on the city border. So there are around 100,000 jobs in the north of Leipzig. So it's very attractive for people 1 hour north of Leipzig to move, and this is exactly the core regions. In 2000 and roughly 10 years ago, there was an infrastructure project finished, which is a tunnel which crosses the city. Which really turned out that people from cities that are 30 minutes away from Leipzig could enter to the city center within a couple of minutes, right? And what you can see there is that really by the opening of this infrastructure project, the public transport, the population of these cities just turned around and started to grow again. The rents started to grow, which is at least a sign of wealth, to be positive. But also the unemployment rate, they dropped and so on. So you can see this positive effects. And it's not because someone was promoting the smaller cities themselves. It's just because they are now connected to a very well-known city, which has a very great potential. And I see the same if you compare Konin and Poznan. So I see a good potential to explain startups, especially in cybersecurity, for example, why you should come to Poznan. And if you are managing to create the spillover effects, I see a very good potential in that regard.
Thank you, Eric. Over to Peter. You have a lot of experience with managing European structural funds in Czechia and Slovakia. How can cohesion funds, and particularly the Just Transition Fund, be used strategically to mobilize private investment? I think that's a question that comes very often in some of the conversations I have with partners. And what are the challenges around that?
Well, the first challenge is to put the micro on. Thanks, Eric. I was listening very carefully to Eric, and actually he offered already
the mic.
He offered already a reply, because once you create infrastructure, the private business is coming. I'm working for DG Regio as a program manager for 5 years, but in my previous life I was 8 years a bank manager. So I have an understanding of both worlds. And I was very lucky to get a program which has a very innovative and smart managing authority. So we decided from the very beginning that we will support the private business through financial instruments. In the previous programming period in DG Regio, financial instruments were called financial engineering. I mean, that's a bit ridiculous, because what we need is a plain vanilla instrument, something simple, easy, and beneficial for the companies. And that is what we have created in the Czech Just Transition Program. We have so-called transformation loan, which is a soft loan for 10 years with zero interest rate. I don't know if EIB can compete with us. Not really. Up to 3 years grace period. And it's for the small and middle-sized enterprises, ranging from 20,000 euro to 4 million euros. And it's really flying. It's a big success. Companies in the regions, in the coal regions, are benefiting from it. It's distributed through the National Development Bank. And I can tell you that we have 10% of program allocation, which is not that big and not that small, 1.6 billion euros in financial instruments. And we believe in business. I mean, business knows what to do, and those regions are really suffering from the lack of entrepreneurship, and it's a good way how to support it through a simple and beneficial financial instrument. Another good example, and I will finish here because it was already explained, is the public sector loan facility. I mean, Czech Republic is among the champions of using it, and it's also something very attractive because you are getting a loan from European Investment Bank, but you are getting, in our case, 25% grant from the European Commission. And what came as a surprise to me, and it was the first project financed from the public sector loan facility, was the project of the concert hall in Ostrava. It's a cultural thing which are, well, people would say it's not bankable, but the region is so interested to attract people to the region, to create a good environment, and it's also infrastructure, that they went for it, and they already started to build this concert hall. We have plenty of other projects. The grant allocation for Czech Republic is 126 million euros, and we will definitely spend it. I mean, it will be multiplied by the loans from European Investment Bank. So our recipe is, well, to offer an attractive support and let the business do their thing.
Thank you, Peter. Before I turn to Tom, don't forget, keep sending your questions through. We're receiving quite a lot of questions. Tom, you're from Belgium. You run the Limburg Reconversion Company. Quite an interesting model. If you could start by explaining a bit what it is. And we also received a question from someone from the audience. Coal phase out in Belgium took, as you know, and as I told later, some decades ago. What is the role of private capital in the transition, and can one regard it as a just transition? A lot of questions.
Yes, very interesting and very rightful question, I would say. Dzień dobry, everybody. Indeed, I'm from a region that was a former coal region, and it's always good to see in hindsight what went well and what went maybe wrong. Because let's be honest, we had to learn ourselves what to do, and as already said in the introduction, the last coal mine closed more than 30 years ago, so a lot of things have happened, and indeed, in terms of private capital, we are today still active in both private equity as well as in venture capital, but I can tell you that did not come easily. I mean, in the beginning, when you take over the coal mines, because we actually were founded out of I would say, the centralized agency that by government, asked by the government to actually centralize all the existing coal mines and then gradually close them one by one. We had a clear objective, in fact, to do this in a socially responsible way. And it was already said, and I heard it also in the audience, it also starts everywhere with the people. You have to build really, I would say, support, understanding of why you're doing it, for whom you're doing it, and you have to get these people on the project. You have to convince them that this is the right thing to do. You have to tell them, of course, because that's not about convincing, that the coal mines will be closed, and potentially in a just and fair way, but they will be closed, and then indeed the way is how you're going to do it and what kind of additional measures you foresee to actually, I would say, accommodate that. And what you get then in terms of, I would say, solutions is indeed you have to put together financing. And we heard now, and that was already there because we were one of the first regions that was able to use, in fact, money from the European Commission, from the European Union at the time, to actually start really working on the social impact, on retraining people, on providing grants for people to survive, because indeed, in the first instance, this creates, of course, a lot of unemployment in the region, and you become a region in despair. I mean, you become really the region where nobody wants to go to, where everybody wants to steer away, because, of course, mayhem and crisis is not something people want to be associated with, but then it's up to the politicians also to come over and to say how we're going to deal with it, and indeed, we put together a financing instrument, which was also de facto LRM. So we also gave very low entry loans, also with low interest rates, tickets from a couple of €1,000 at the time to 10, 20, 30, 100,000, and that actually incentivized, I would say, private capital or private entrepreneurs to start indeed taking entrepreneurship in their own hands. Because on top of that, when you're in the coal region, there is a lot of, I would say, expectation from higher up, the government, from the big coal mines, the companies, because everything in the coal region is organized by the coal mines. So the housing, the public facilities, sports, you name it, everything is really done by and for the coal mines. So that means that if that all goes away, and that is actually what is going to happen when the coal mine actually closes, then you have to build up a totally new, I would say, community. And then coming back indeed to the assets that you have, but you have the infrastructure, and you can in some ways just erase it, demolish it, and pretend it wasn't there. In other ways, you can actually try to reconvert them, and that's also what LRM did in certain areas. We try to keep certain of the buildings, we try to build around it, cultural heritage, try to show people where we come from, because the coal mines also in Belgium, in our regions, exist for more than 100 years. So a lot of people, or grandfathers, fathers had to do with that. So you build some kind of legacy on that, and then indeed, other points are, I would say, today you build education. You make sure that the schools are being upgraded. You make sure that universities are there, that you invest in all sorts of additional services to actually help the economy thrive. You go from a more traditional, indeed, coal mining and economy to really a knowledge economy, and therefore you need to build new skill sets, you need to retrain people, you need to give them a new sense of, I would say, destiny, and you can actually do that together in PPS, private-public collaborations. You do that together with other, I would say, private entrepreneurs, and about the just, I mean, of course you have to make sure that there are some rules and regulations in place, that it doesn't become the Wild West, but if you manage it and you really, I would say, accompany it, you can actually come to a situation where you then attract businesses. And today, we can tell that in the region, which was really a former coal mine region, there was nothing else than coal mines. We are now, in terms of employment rates, in terms of innovation, in terms of business entrepreneurship, we are at the same level as the other regions in Belgium.
Thank you, Tom. And now I'll turn, I guess, for everyone in the panel, a question that came through that I think is quite interesting. So if a region develops a strategic plan for attracting private investments, what are the key elements to include, and what is the appropriate time frame? I won't call on anyone, but if someone is ready to respond. No? No one? Give it a go.
maybe I can add something from also again the startup perspective, because there's a very, very important thing, and for me this is specialization. And it's not only for the coal regions, it's for any region, because what we face is a global competition, and no one is like really interested to be somewhere where you are like average in something, right? So people go where they meet the best people, where they meet the best universities, where they can get the best employees for a certain topic. Yeah, and this is very, very important to understand, and within the European Union. So there's a very small city, like 45 minutes away from Leipzig. It's called Jena. It's a city with around 100,000 of population, and it's very, very deeply specialized in the topics of optics and light. Yeah, and so they have these big companies like Jenoptik, like Zeiss, like Carl Zeiss, which are two separate companies but sharing the same founder actually. So it's a very, very wealthy region, also in Eastern Germany, and it's now like competitive globally in this very, very special thing of optics. Yeah, so if any company in the world does something with optics, they will come around Jena. And this is very, very important to understand, because what I often see in the regional strategies from the economic perspective is like, okay, we do something with life sciences and we do something with IT, which is like very, very broad. And at the end, if a logistic company comes and say we want to open an office, they get just the same conditions as everyone else, right? So there's not a real very good specialization in many regions from my perspective, due to the reason that if you specialize on something, it also means that you don't do something. This is like the part of strategy, right? So strategy also means not doing things. And if I look closer to the cluster strategies, at the end they are so meta and on a very broader level that at the end they say basically you do everything, right? Especially if you add IT and digitalization, which is basically very, very broad. So I wish that regions would specialize even more to be competitive to other global regions.
If I may add, as everybody in the room knows, the condition for JTF support was this so-called territorial just transition plan. And that was a good start, and for some regions in Czech Republic it was a new exercise, and I fully subscribe what Eric has said. I mean, it's important to be specific, see your weaknesses, but also strong sides. In Karlovy Vary region, we, for example, realize that the spa industry could be really something to be developed, because it's not only tourism, it's a healthcare as well. And I'm sure that there are these niche areas in other regions as well, but it's not easy to discover it because, well, you must find the gold, and it's not easy.
Maybe I'll turn it to the business side. So a lot of the discussions, probably since the Ukraine invasion and the energy crisis, and now with the new commission around trying to make electricity prices more affordable for both community and also what that means for industry and competitiveness. Turning to you, Matilda, how important is affordability of energy, and what can be done to reduce the cost of energy according to the business perspective?
Thanks a lot. So I can start with a figure that I think we heard before as well from the Commission side. So yes, energy prices. I mean, if you compare them, power prices for industry in 2023 compared to 2019, they have doubled, more than doubled. And we're looking at energy prices in Europe that are will be 2 to 3 times higher than our main competitors. So I think that answers the first part of your question, that it's very, very important. And these are not just statistics, it's really have huge impacts on investments and jobs and welfare. And maybe, yeah, we did a study with Compass Lexicon where we modeled the energy price developments until 2050. So reaching climate neutrality by 2050 was one of the assumptions. And what we saw there was one of the findings that if we remove bottlenecks for deploying renewables, and if we focus on deploying renewables in cost-efficient locations, the cost for energy can decrease by 40% up to in 2040, 2050. So I think this is a key thing that we could do to reduce prices, because the overarching need is really to increase the deployment of renewable energy and other low-carbon sources, nuclear, for instance. We heard that before on the ambition of Konin to develop more nuclear power, for instance. And that's one side. And we have short-term measures as well. So we know that tariffs and taxes are a big part of the energy bill, and this is foreseen to increase as well with the huge needs, the investments needs in energy infrastructure, so the build out of grids, for instance. Here we have to look at how can we reduce exposure of industrial consumers for these higher prices.